going. And shout out to Hoops Jargon, man. I'm gonna add you to the crew, man. This crew called Hoops Jargon. They've been getting at it, man. They the ones that's gonna grill you, man, because they majority are all Houston people. So that's
shout out to Hoop Jargon.
Shout out to Hoop Jargon, man. Shout out to BoxDen.com. Shout out to Most Sports Talk Radio. Shout out to C Hendo. Shout out to everybody, man. Tuning.
What up, everybody? Shout out to Hoop Jargon. Appreciate that from the great Kendrick Perkins and my man C Hendo. Shout out. So many got the show today. We talk about some Lakers stuff. You know, I got my Kobe stuff on. Oh man, you know I got to represent my favorite player about time. Unfortunately, he's not with us, but you know he's still with us. If you get my drift. All right, so I'm gonna bring a guy in who's like I told you all the time, man, a Houston radio legend. Dude, you gonna trip out here talking. I remember my first time listening to Houston radio. Hearing Jayson Braddock talk, man, I thought he was a black dude, man. I swear to God. I think he can make a joke about being white. I was like, no way, and so, man, this dude knows so much, and you don't hear him talk. He's gonna trip you out if you have not heard it before. You know, a wealth of knowledge. I got to say the words. So my brother doing bring in Jayson.
Cliff, man. I appreciate the introduction. Appreciate you bringing me in. I've been looking forward to joining you on Hoops Jargon for a while. Follow you on the Facebook group. It's great seeing you growing your brand on YouTube. You know your stuff, and just right off the gate, let me go ahead and give you some kudos because just for those who follow me out there, y'all know I've been doing the NFL draft and NBA draft for like 10 plus years. And on the NBA, Cliff's been telling me about this kid, Lonzo's little brother. No, his little brother. Since the kid was in diapers almost, he's like, Jay, I'm telling you, get on this guy, LaMelo Ball. So I do my draft rankings. I got that ringing in the back of my head. And I still don't listen to Cliff. So I got to come out here, salute you first, the respect for seeing the talent in LaMelo Ball, because his shot form, everything else, even after seeing Lonzo's shot reworked in New Orleans, I still doubted that we could see LaMelo consistently as a scorer. And as a rookie, even with the injuries, 5 3-point attempts a game, hitting 35%. I love the trajectory he's on. I had him as my 6th prospect. Number 1, I had Anthony Edwards. 2, James Wiseman. 3, Isaac Okoro. 4, Saddiq Bey. I'm fine with my rankings to that point. I know Saddiq and Isaac I was a lot higher on than most people. I'm fine with them being ahead of LaMelo. But at 5, I had Obi topping over LaMelo Ball. And I'm Cliff, I got to give you the floor to just take your kudos because I missed that by a mile.
Well, you know, hey, if you guys know me, I don't step away from a compliment, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put my badge of honor right here on the chest.
Nice.
You know, we don't turn down the compliments over here. And you know, and I bought this jersey.
Oh, look at you. Look at you.
I bought this 2 years ago, so everybody was laughing when I bought it. This is when he was playing in Lithuania.
Right.
Like, that kid is going to be a top 5 draft pick, and he's going to be a star. So I'm going to buy it right now and give him a sign it, and all y'all can laugh. This is official stuff. So all y'all, ha.
Yeah, you nailed it. And not only you, Jordan. When Jordan took him 3rd, I know people wasn't as high on Saddiq Bey, and I didn't think his people was as high on Isaac Okoro. I had Okoro as a 3rd prospect, and Vegas had the over-under at 9.5 in the draft for Okoro. And then Saddiq didn't go 19th to the Nets, I believe, before the trade to the Pistons. Mm-hmm. So saying all that, I thought, you know, with Saddiq and Okoro there, I thought it was a mistake for Jordan. And I said, here's Jordan make another mistake, buying the hype, buying LaMelo. So, I mean, again, you've got to take your pride out of this. You're going to have misses. You're going to have hits. And I like to point out the hits that other people make. I noticed you on LaMelo for a while, and I said, all right, he's really 100% on this guy. If it hits, I got to give him his just desserts.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I remember you calling me when you reaching out to me. I gave you my number, and you were telling me about that. So, man, hey, good things can come from Hoop Jargon, man. And so most people know me now online, so they call me Hoop Jargon. But in the group, you know how it is. It's the group, though. It's its own little entity. But in this YouTube space, I'm Hoop Jargon now. But I'll take that. I'll wear that with a badge of honor, man. And so, shout out to a few of the chats, man. Shout out to my boy David, K&G Gaming. Shout out to Hoop Jargon. Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. That's great content in there. I'm not really on social media a lot other than just work and posting and stuff, but you added me to that group a couple years ago, and let me go ahead and state there's some guys in there, some men and women that just have some eye for talent in there. And now I think we're seeing in this 21st century, especially 2020, 2021, to where even young people coming up are not going towards sports radio, an industry that I kind of cut my teeth on over the last 10 years, but they're going towards their own podcasts and everything. So with that in mind and what you're seeing from Hoops Jargon, people are finding talent. We always say this with young kids that go to smaller schools in basketball and baseball, football and all that, hey, if you've got the talent, they'll find you. It's the same thing in podcasts and streaming, and like with Hoop Jargon, you'll have some people there that have talent. Keep pushing on. Your talent will come to the forefront now in the 21st century more than ever before. So I think you're really on to something there, Cliff.
I appreciate that, man. I really do, man, because I added you. I know Craig Shelton used to be in the group as well. You know, another guy who I love listening to on Houston ESPN Radio.
Right.
And so, I add people that I don't know how they'll take to it. You know what I mean? And so that's pretty dope that you saw what it is. Another name, Barry Warner, he actually was at one of our meeting groups like 4 or 5 years ago, man. And he invited me to the studio, showed me some of the things, like, what he calls peeling back the onion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you did all your guests. And so, he likes to talk and do the hand thing. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just cool to see how my group is kind of metastasizing in those kind of things in these spaces, man. And so, I'm very pleased to have you on. And so for the people who are new to you, name some of the stuff that you've done before we will get to the Laker content, but I want you to know, man, this is a really big name I have on here, man. And I want y'all to kind of know his resume, and then we'll get rolling.
All right, back in 2009, me and my wife had our 4th child, my last kid, and I'm just a high school graduate from South Carolina, but I've always believed that if you focus on something persistent, what's the saying? Persistence beats resistance. So if you have talent and you consistently focus on it, block out the naysayers, what everyone else says, people in mind, people in mind don't matter and people that matter don't mind, the saying. So focus on, take the positive energies from those that are supporting you and that see your talent. And if you just consistently do it, and it's hard, man, I wanted to retire so many times in this industry because I was just a high school graduate that had to cut my own path in there. So it's hard. I went 7 years of doing sports talk radio, hosting my own shows and doing different shows, and I wasn't even getting paid for it. But I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my foot in the door. So a little bit on my background. Last 10 years, I've worked for Sports Talk 790, Sirius XM Fantasy, ESPN 97.5, also done podcasts. I was a fantasy expert, an NFL insider, draft evaluator for the NBA, NFL, in the media form, not for the teams independently and everything. So that's a little bit about my background. And what I like to do is I like to trust the film. I block out all outside noise, whether we're talking about draft or we're evaluating the NFL and NBA film itself. I block out outside noise, go to the film, study, and that makes up about 90% of my independent assessments. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. And people remember your misses a lot more when you're standing on an island as opposed to the group thing.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this: what's one of your most memorable misses that you just got ringed for?
Oh, you don't want to hear it. People's going to cut off the radio now, but I'll own it. Pat Mahomes.
Me too.
I had a 3rd round grade. I had a 3rd round grade on Patrick Mahomes. When he came out, I studied, I evaluated it. Even after I did my evaluation, I went out and I looked and see. I wait till after I do all my evaluations, so I'm not influenced with seeds being planted that I hear, oh, well, he does this, he can be that. After I did my evaluation, I go and look and see, all right, so how close am I to what the experts and everyone else says? And I've got a 3rd round grade on. They're like, top 10 pick. This guy's the next Brett Favre. Go back and take my pride out of it. I'm like, maybe they saw something I didn't see. So I go back, look at the film again. I'm like, everything's off the cuff. It's not equal to wins in college. The windows are so wide. I don't see this translating to the NFL. And if your comp is Brett Favre, that he has to be a once in a lifetime generational talent, I can't get there with you. Then he fell into the perfect situation, sitting a year behind Alex Smith, developing an Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy offense, the weapons, one of the fastest receivers in Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, complementary receivers in DeMarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins all down the line. That being said, I'm not taking anything away from the young man because he still came out, and that first year he started was an MVP and looks like one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But that's probably my worst miss ever, having a 3rd round grade on Pat Mahomes and him just a couple years into the league, possibly looking at like one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
And you know what? I'm gonna share some of that smoke with you because I saw Patrick Mahomes and I liked it. I like the improvisation skills that he had. The big arm. We all like that. But I'm sorry, when I see Big Arm, and that's the biggest sell.
You see Jay Cutler. Yeah.
Jay Cutler. You know, because Jay Cutler is actually, people don't know, he was a hell of an athlete. He could hoop too. Like, if you watch his high school, mixtape of both sports, right. Jay Cutler was like that dude. Tony Romo
just didn't care.
Dude.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jay Cutler just came out. He just didn't care. And if you looked at Mahomes' college stats and the style of play and everything, and you looked at Jay Cutler at Vanderbilt, where they both didn't play at the top echelon school, but played in conferences with big schools, then you saw a comparison, and I felt like he probably end up more towards the size of a Jay Cutler than he would towards a Brett Favre. To this point, completely missed on that assessment. But you go back, recalculate, and you learn from your mistakes over the last 10 years. I like to go back and see where I missed, especially my biggest misses, and where I hit, and see what I did wrong or what I did right in those situations. So Zach Wilson this year, I go back and I'm like watching Zach Wilson. I'm seeing the same things I saw from Pat Mahomes that I didn't like, and now I love it because I've seen it translate to the NFL. And I'm like telling people 6 months before the draft, I'm telling NFL draft experts, this guy is going to be the number 2 pick in the draft. And if you ask me, he could be a better NFL quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. But I can't say that publicly because then it's hot take still generation out there. So people are just so used to hearing if there's a group majority on one side, they can't take the contrary point of view or even listen to the intellect to it because everyone else is telling them something else. Like, how's this one person seeing something that no one else does?
Yeah, and I guess the only way you can swim out of that is you keep on hitting on those. Kind of like it's this guy who does like these insider betting numbers. It's sort of like Houston Radio. Right. I'm gonna tell you the latest secret that nobody's talking about. You call my number and I'll tell you about my insider trader, whatever. It was kind of about like betting on sports games or what have you. So that's a road that nobody wants to take because you're gonna, like we just talked about before we got online, you're gonna miss a lot. And people will try to bury you in the fellow media constituency. So then you look like this aloof guy, like what's the guy, the conservative Ron? Shoot.
In sports or in what regards?
No, in politics. He has his own show now. He's based out of Austin. He used to go like do exposés about his name will come to me in a second, but. Yeah, people just tend to kind of shoo that away because they want everybody to kind of be like-minded, huddled up. So I'm glad you're more of a maverick because that's what the radio game needs, man. You need guys not afraid to stand in the square, man.
And so, like you said, you'll have the hits that build your confidence. And while the people on the outside, the majority that, like you said, the naysayers that want to see you fail because you went against the group thought, they'll always point out those ones that you liked independently a lot more or didn't like that turn out to hit. But then they'll forget all about the ones that you liked independently and you're absolutely right on. And then everybody else was wrong on, like, well, everybody thought that, so it don't matter. So it doesn't matter that they were all completely wrong on Blake Bortles. And I'm telling you, like, Blake Bortles is the next Jay Cutler. Greg Robinson, leading up to that draft, the talk was that Greg Robinson, the Rams love him. They're going to take him as the tackle with the second pick. And my mind's blown after I've studied the tape and everything. And I go back and I tell people, I said, if they draft Greg Robinson, the Rams draft Greg Robinson at tackle with the number 2 pick, it's Jason Smith 2.0, another tackle out of Baylor that they drafted with the number 2 pick a couple years before and said that he was going to develop in his tackle. No, and you go look at the film and it's so raw, but everyone's telling you like, he's a number 2 pick. He's a number 2 pick. He might be, but he shouldn't be. And I said, in that draft, there's 3 other offensive linemen I would definitely take over. Zach Martin, Taylor Lewan, Joe Bitonio. I nailed it. I killed it. When most people didn't even have Joe Bitonio a first-round grade on it, but nobody's going to talk about that. And there's those cases every year. But you talk about the gambling aspects and the experts in gamblings. Your top experts, if you hit 56% of your picks or higher, you're an expert at gambling. That means you're wrong 44% of the time. And people will be out there and they'll point out to your misses for those 44% of the time. But I knew a guy when I was at ESPN 97.5, he went an entire season hitting 70% on some of these sports, and people were just constantly tweeting him because he wasn't a big national household name. Like, yeah, you told me to hit this. You're pointing to his miss, one of the 3 misses per 10, and away from the 7 hits per 10. That's profit. That's 70% over 30. That's profit any way you split it.
It's dang near flawless in the betting world. And putting your opinion out there, yeah. And Alex Jones is the guy who I'm thinking about. Alex Jones.
Okay, yeah, I did hear that name.
Yeah. So now You know, and like the other analogy we said, if you bat 300 in the MLB, you go to the
All-Star game. You bat 400, you're going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there we go.
You're one of the greatest ever. If you're batting 400, you're one of the greatest ever. Who's the last person to do it? You know, I mean, it's one of the toughest feats, and you're failing 6 times out of 10.
Horrible, which is horrible about conventional methods. But when you put it down, you know, make it more pragmatic when you think about it, that's good. I mean, you're going to fail, man. It's just about, are you hitting on the ones you need to hit on, or is your logic sound?
Exactly. And that's the other thing too. I think on the outside, we don't factor in enough. There's so many uncontrollable variables, whether you're a prospect going to the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball. What system do you go into? Does the coaching staff or the scouting staff get fired? Do they get replaced? Do they not buy into you? They turn around the next year and draft a guy 2 rounds higher than you the previous year, and they're tied to them, and you're on the outside looking in. So there's so many different things. Do they fall into the right system? Does the organization buy into them? Is it a successful organization? Do they go to an organization that traditionally doesn't hit and develop prospects? So there's a lot of uncontrollable variables. So all you can do is just study, stick to your own guns in your opinion, and put your evaluations out there. And then every year track how you do.
Yeah, and that's why I'm unapologetic. I got my little segment, my little skit I call, and shout out to my boy DJ Ron Cut Truth, man, new media. I use this little moniker, I call it Warm Take Walter. So I'm not real big on jumping way into things. I'm more of like, you know, the truth is always in the middle. So I always trust my eyes. I trust my process. And I don't make strong takes unless I just really see it like, okay, this guy stinks. This guy's going to be the next best thing. Does it always work? No, but I usually ebb towards the middle because it just, and I promote logic. And I'll give you another example. Excuse me, with the LaMelo Ball situation, you know, he came out not starting. And a lot of people was like, oh, Coach James Borrego hating on him. I was like, no, that's not how it goes at the professional level. Like, for whatever they evaluated, they think he needed like a soft rollout, basically. Mm-hmm. So I said this on wax at about the 20 game mark is when you'll probably see his opportunity to start. Now, with Terry Rozier getting injured, that did, you know, give the perfect lane. And I'm like, but they probably, because, you know, the NBA judges in 10 game intervals. Right. So I'm sure they had like a 2 interval evaluation, and then they was going to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, follow the 10-day contract. Everything follows that interval. You're exactly right.
There you go. And I'm okay with people, because I'm not going to lie, man, a lot of people did not like my take. I'm just like, listen, I'm a huge LaMelo Ball fan. I wish I could have had you. Like I am a huge LaMelo Ball fan, but I'm not going to.
You've been on him for years.
On him for years. But I'm not going to let that get in the way with how I know professional teams roll. It's not just about feeling. It's about whatever their process, as messed up as it may be, they trust their process. Why is that? Because they're paying a roster full of 15+ millionaires. So you can see it as a fan where it's, you know, it's monopoly money. It doesn't matter. But when you run a business, you have a process. Sorry, guys. Every place that you patronize has a process of attaining customers, maintaining them, and re-attaining them.
You're right.
Just because you say you walk into a store, oh, that picture should be over there. That's fine, but they got their system, and that's how multi-million, well, let's say multi-100,000 million billion-dollar entities. That's how they roll, man. And I'm okay with being unpopular with walking people through how that goes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it. You just they're educated guesses. You put in the work, you put in the study, you trust your process. Every year you put in the work and study. Like, I mean, for the last 10 years, I studied 300 to 500 NFL prospects independently. I study, the NBA's fluctuated because I've been primarily focused on the NFL because that's what most people, you get labeled as something. In this industry is like Braddock's a football guy. And I'm like, wow, that's news to me. My scholarship offers were in basketball. I played it my entire life. This is all the talent. I just learned football on the fly after I got married, as far as the ins and outs, the X's and O's, and how to study film, and took a course for it and everything else. But the basketball is my background. From age 12 to 17, my mom would work 2 jobs and my dad would work sales all the way to about 9 o'clock at night. So instead of being at the house with my brother or out in the country by myself or something, I would ride a bus to the YMCA every day, get there after school from 3 o'clock. It would close at 9. My mom would get off her second job and pick me off from age 12 to 16, 17 till I could drive. And I just grinded on my game game every day. And it's the same thing I've done in this industry. After the basketball career was over, it was time to figure out what I wanted to do. And I didn't figure it out until I was 30-something years old with 4 kids. And I'm like, told my wife back in 2009, you know what? I'm a high school graduate that's never worked in sports talk radio or anything before. Nobody knows who the hell I am in the 4th largest city, but I'm going to work in sports talk radio in the 4th largest city in America. And by the way, I've been picked on for the way I talk my entire life and had to take speech classes as a kid. So now also, baby, I'm going to get paid for the way I speak in the 4th largest city. So crazy enough, she didn't divorce me and we're still together.
There you go, man.
That's how we get there, man. Figure out what you want to do. Figure out what you. Oh. Right. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, man. We kind of doubling back a little bit. Can you hear me in real time?
Yeah, I got you now.
I might have to switch to my phone. Okay, I might have to switch to my phone. It may be lagging a little bit. How am I now?
I got you. As soon as you say something, I'll let you know when I got you.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I love the story. I love the drive. I love the passion because I mean that's what makes us men who we are, man. You gotta step up and, like you say, all the things stacked against you of not being a great orator, not being from the city of Houston, coming to something where you had to learn on the fly. You still believe in yourself, and that's put you where you are. I think a lot of people, you should take that home, man, and apply that to yourself in your own way. But let's get the people what they came for, man. Let's talk about these Lakers, man, and Kobe Bryant, man, and the way he shakes out. So
I grew up a Lakers fan, so this isn't just me talking out my neck.
All right. Well, I am currently a Lakers fan, so we gonna get down to it. So I'll let you go first. I mean, so as we all know, unless you've been hiding under a rock, that Kobe Bryant posthumously has been added into the NBA Hall of Fame grail, as it were. And, you know, his wife and his oldest daughter were the ones you kind of saw parading for him on his behalf, obviously. So, which raised the question I saw, man, is Kobe Bryant the greatest Laker of all time? And he happens to be my favorite player. And Will knows I've been a Kobe guy forever. But my answer may surprise you, but I'll let you have the floor. Let's before we say who the best, who would you say the top 5 Lakers of all times are? And then we'll shake it out from there.
Oh, man, wow, top 5. You know, I mean, top 3 is going to easily in no order. We'll order these final three there, Kareem, Magic, and Kobe. I think when you're talking about Lakers greats, those are 3. And then obviously you got the people that love the logo and Jerry West, but there's so many Lakers greats that have come through there. Now, some people might think I'm throwing slight at Shaq there, but I don't think Shaq's in that same vein as Kobe, Kareem, and Magic Johnson when we're talking about all-time Lakers great. Yes, I know he was tied at the hip with Kobe there for almost a decade. They won those 3 titles together. But you know, I remember, I tell you that I grew up a Lakers fan, but I also, as a little kid, when Shaq got drafted by Orlando, then the whole story with Chris Webber and Penny Hardaway, and I was playing basketball every day, so I was following all the stories, and then I heard, oh man, this kid, Shaq loves this kid named Penny Hardaway from Blue Chip. And they might actually force the deal. Shaq wants them to go with Penny Hardaway instead of Chris Webber. And then I became the biggest Penny Hardaway fan. Then he leaves there with Orlando and he pairs up with Kobe, and I become the biggest Kobe. I started watching Kobe when he was at Lower Merion in high school, and I was in high school, about the same age. I'm 42 years old now. I'll turn 43 this year. So I tracked his whole career through high school as I'm playing in high school and coming up the ranks. He's a 2 guard. I'm a 2 guard. And I watched this guy, and I told people that as soon as they drafted him and they made the trade with for Vlade, and he went to the Lakers, I'm like, he's the next Lakers stud. I watched him when he struggled there in his rookie season and shot 3-4 air balls from 3 and lost no swag about it. He's like, all right, I'm off this time. I'm going to come back this one. So 4 and 5, you know, you can put Shaq in there. You can put whoever, but the conversation, what we're here for, we're going to get to the meat on the bone. Kobe Bryant is the greatest Laker of all time. And I have no issue with stating that. What Kobe is, who he could become. I was born in 1978. You know how many people have scored 65 points or more since I was born in 1978? I believe it's 4. Jordan once, Devin Booker was the most recent back in 2017, and David Robinson cheated the situation to get his when he was pursuing Shaq's title. But so throw David Robinson out. It's Michael Jordan, it's Devin Booker in 2017, and it's Kobe back-to-back years in 2006 and 2007. He's the greatest of all time for the LA Lakers.
Kobe Bryant. Okay, I'm kind of doubling up. I'm trying to.
Kobe Bryant. Okay, I'm kind of doubling up. I'm trying.
Okay,
to
how we looking?
Phone. Okay, how we looking?
I got you. Yeah, I see you. You're down on one screen.
I'm down on one. Okay, cool.
I'm down on one.
Yeah, I'm trying to. We're building while we fly, guys. I know it's doubling back, kind of crazy. How about now, Jason?
You're a little off site, but yeah, the video is looking good. But yeah, now you got to square it up and straight. They're all right, man. This is 21st century, man. They just fast forward past this. Oh, good. No stress to this, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, doggone it, man. I'm trying to get this off there. It goes smoother than this normally.
Oh, you good, man.
Okay, let's exit off. All right, StreamYard, you killing me. So we're going to do this. We're going to get off this one. All right, what about, I think we're good now. Okay.
All right.
Cool. We just going to go.
Roll with it, baby.
All right, so that's bold, man. So you're going Kobe Bryant, and,
Yeah.
I would never sit here and wrestle you over a Kobe Bryant assessment.
Okay, give it to me though. You don't have to pull punches. Go ahead, Cliff. We good.
Let me go ahead and just go for the knockout blow, man. I'm going Johnson, man. In Charlotte, 9 days to victory. And the reason why is this: when you pull their resumes up, they're pretty damn close. Now I would give Magic the nod because he did. Well, I'm sorry, he's done a little more in less time. So with Kobe and Magic, we're talking about a 5-year difference. Obviously his situation. I don't know if you can say it on YouTube and not get flagged, but his immune system situation definitely has him.
But come on, wait. I got to cut you off there though, because this is a question I've always. Magic was my favorite player as a kid. Here's my favorite: Jose Canseco in baseball, Magic Johnson in basketball, and John Elway in football. That's who I grew up with. My favorite. So I died. A little bit of me died when Magic had to come out with that announcement in the early 90s. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll tell you straight up. I teared up. I cried. I mean, Magic was my dude. He's so likable, lovable, and everything. And I agree with everything you're saying. And played all 5 positions in the game. Magic was just that dude, and the way him and Kareem played off each other's 5 titles in that decade there. So love Magic and everything he was. But I mean, Kobe, you put him in any generation, you ask him to go out there and score, you need him to facilitate, you need him to carry a team. Magic and Kareem wasn't carrying Paul Gasol.
I get that. Well, you know what the counter is, and again, as a diehard Kobe Bryant fan, some people assert that Paul Gasol was the bigger entity in that pairing, which I know that to be a flat out lie. But some people do really go about
a bigger entity than who?
I'm sorry?
Some people consider Paul Gasol a bigger entity than who? Just in general, or?
Well, basically saying he was not someone. Now, I don't want to go crazy and say that he was Kobe Shaq, but basically the big man that Kobe needs to win. If he can't have that big man, he can't win. So
that's a stretch. That's a stretch. Like, I mean, if you're taking like what Kobe, the teams that Kobe could take to the title and the teams he would go up against, like, you're not seeing other players do that. Like Jordan was on super teams. Let's say the biggest story out there that people don't want to hear. Michael Jordan was on super teams. Super teams like what the Warriors had. You went and you had Phil Jackson was so far ahead of the curve. What did Jordan do his first couple of years? Get coaches fired. Couldn't get past the Pistons. Lost. He couldn't do it. Then they go and flip the draft, and Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen come in the door. Phil Jackson come in the door as what? Your 4th head coach in 5 years is Michael Jordan the Great? No, then you put Scottie Pippen as that 2 horse. You got rebound on Horace Grant, and you flip him out the door and bring in the better rebounder in Dennis Rodman. You got 3-point specialist in BJ Armstrong, Steve Kerr, Paxton, Hodges. You've got big men that can do hack and shack that none of them can play basketball worth a damn, but they'll go out there and hack and shack and help face you up against Orlando. That team was so well constructed, and as great as Jordan is, I think he's the second best player of all time. Don't care if that gets you in your feelings or not, people listening. He's the second best player of all time. LeBron is number one to me, and I grew up in the Jordan era. He tried to delete me. Don't delete me, Cliff.
Oh, man, stop the show.
Oh, man.
We're going to get Jayson.
All right, thanks for coming on the show. God bless and good night.
Man, when you about to ruffle some, okay, so a few things. I would say Jordan team, I wouldn't call them a super team. I will say a perfectly constructed team with a perfect system from Tex Winters that nobody was ready for.
Right.
Dennis Rodman, as we remember, when he came to the Bulls, he was an outcast at that point. Dennis Rodman was damn near on his way out the damn NBA. With the Spurs, he started acting up, and I think he went to the Mavericks first. Then was it them? Yeah, because after the Bulls' second three-peat, he went to the Lakers. So he went to the Mavericks, I think the Spurs and the Mavericks or something like that. Then people were just done with him. Then the Bulls pick him up. Jordan sees this great moldable clay and turns him back into, and great minds can do well. Shit. I don't know how much I can give Jordan credit because he's been a horrible draft picker. But I almost got too ahead of myself. I had to stop myself. But the point I'm making is I think that team was just beautifully constructed because, like you kind of glossed over a little bit, the center position, bums.
You're right.
Plotting bums.
Right.
Longley, Bill Cartwright. Who was one of them bums?
Will Purdue was one, and there was the British dude, right? Whittington or something? Bill Willington?
Yeah, bums.
You're right. I don't disagree with you, but their role against, I remember that Orlando series. It's like, just go beat up Shaq all game, make him shoot free throws. And that was their whole strategy. And you didn't need anything else because you had 21st century spacing. And the way the Bulls were able to space the floor with their three-point shooters and your center, you could take out the paint, put them in, let them body for the rebounds or whatever, and still play old school basketball. But then you had one of the best players of all time, what most people consider the greatest player, Michael Jordan, one of the best number twos, play off of you and Scottie Pippen, the best rebounder. So you're getting more opportunities. The spacing with 3-point specialists before they were 3-point specialists. And it's right at that 89, 1990, 91, when NBA teams started to really pay attention and focus on that 3-point ball and what it could be going into the 21st century. I don't think anybody foretold what was coming to what we see now with the Warriors and the Rockets the last couple of years, the Jazz this year flipping the script. So I don't think any of us foretold that, but you can even look at Magic, bringing it back to the Lakers. Look at Magic's last 2 years with the Lakers before the HIV virus attaches to him and everything. And I don't know why I went with attaches to. I'm getting clinical now. Oh, HIV virus comes in and attaches to it. And you can see right here, if you look at the illustration of the HIV attaches, and somehow he adds 30 pounds of fat when everyone else was getting skinny and dying. Rich people don't live in our world.
That's a whole other loud.
He's like, wait. We're on a whole different show now.
That dude Magic, man, he doing the opposite.
This dude came back fat. This dude, I'm like, oh damn, man, Magic gonna die. Magic got the ninja. He's gone. And there's like Magic Johnson coming out of retirement a year later. Who's this fat motherfucker in the Magic Johnson jersey? You know what I'm talking about. He couldn't even drive anymore. That's why, he just starts like, I'm going to just post out here and throw this ugly 3-ball up. Magic would push that 3-ball. You remember Magic had an ugly 3-ball. He would push that shot. There was no look at the flick of the wrist. Nah, it was all push.
Hey, what did he coach for the Lakers for a little bit too?
Oh my God. Which was worse, Magic Johnson, the head coach for the Lakers, or the night show host? You don't remember the night show host?
I'm not gonna let you slander Magic. I actually like the Magic Hour. That was a great.
No, you didn't. And you probably think Arsenio Hall
$1,000. That's good TV.
You probably thought Arsenio Hall was the man in the 90s, right?
Huh?
You probably thought Arsenio Hall was the man in the 90s, right?
Right. Shit.
Give it up for Magic Johnson. He did that for like 10 years. I'm like, damn, when's he going to give this up, man? It's not catching on. It's not catching on, Arsenio. Let it go. Give it a pass.
Great work, man. and you bring Magic in, and Magic gonna come up there and schmooze like he's man. I gotta give Magic Johnson so much credit, man. That guy
hustler
to be a talentless. Okay, now I don't want to go that far.
Out. Oh,
like he's not a good orator, and the way he can galvanize people, it is so impressive, man. Which let me say this: being a former basketball player at a reasonably high level, those kind of guys, man, it's not that many people of those in this world.
Right.
I mean, who's ever said something bad about Magic Johnson on his team? Who's ever? And he didn't play.
Just ex-sexual partners.
Well, there you go. So
tongue fully of cheek, Lakers fans. Come on. I mean, it's not too soon. It's been 20 years. 30 years. Let's move on.
Yeah, so my boy Just B says he like this guy. Like, man, yeah, he got a lot of personality, man. So I'm glad y'all get to see it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
LeBron comment. He said he called LeBron the GOAT.
He is. He's the GOAT. And I grew up during that era. It's usually people my age, the 40-year-olds, like me and you're probably pretty close in age. I'm 42 now, and people in my era is always the ones that they cling on to, and older people, the generation before. Wilt Chamberlain, greatest of all time. Oh, okay.
That's fair.
But for me, I'm going against my generation. I'm telling you, LeBron, I didn't like LeBron. I wasn't really studying basketball back then, but when he first came out, I'm like, nah, this isn't going to be the next guy. He ain't on Jordan level. He's not on Kobe's level. He can't score like them. He can't do this. And then I just watched him. I watched his career, and my opinion changed as time went on. And then at some point, probably about 3-4 years ago, I'm like, this is the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. It's the greatest basketball player. I love everything about it. And I can even take away, like, he says some stupid stuff publicly. LeBron says some he contradicts himself a lot. He's hypocritical a lot. That being said, it doesn't factor into the basketball court. I didn't like Jordan at all. Like, I hated Jordan growing up, and I wasn't a big LeBron fan. I was a Kobe fan coming up as a kid, us both coming through high school at the same time. And I'm telling you, as much as I like Kobe, and I'd love to tell you that Kobe was the greatest basketball player of all time, he is for the Lakers. But in the NBA, I would say LeBron 1, Jordan 2, and Kobe 3.
See, it's funny that I mean, and I like the fact that men can disagree on things, but
sure,
leave amicably. I actually got Kobe my favorite player of all time. He's not even he's barely 10 to me overall.
And why so, though? Why would you say that, though?
I think Kobe had a lot of years where he was not a complete player, and it was at the detriment of his success because he had all the tools. Like, he had everything. He had the work ethic. He was a little aloof, and that put some of his teammates off, but I'm not going to penalize him for that. Like, that's a personality thing. And something, great people eventually learn how to overcome that. I would say he flamed out 2 times that I do not love. One time against the Phoenix Suns in 2006. I'm gonna just call it what it is. He bitched out.
That's a little strong.
Huh?
That's a little strong.
He bitched out.
That cut me a little bit. All right, I'll be honest with you. That cut me.
Because people said he's shooting too much, which he kind of was, which me as a fan, I didn't give a damn. I go win the game.
That's it. I just want to watch the best players play the best sports. Exactly. I don't even care what team it is. Let me see the best.
Talk about carry a team. You want to run down that 2006 team? That team was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm good with Kobe shooting them all the shots. If that's going to give us to beat the Phoenix Suns, which was a way better. You talk about a well-constructed team. That's that team. Second time Kobe bitched up, to me, the Celtics, was it 2008?
That's when the Celtics had the big 3, though, right? I mean, we're talking about Garnett, Allen, Perkins, and who's going to war with Kobe in that. So when you're going up against that big 3, who's going to war? Because I'll be honest with you, my recall is the worst ever. I'll just be honest with you. I remember watching that series and loving everything, but I can't tell you the whole roster. So you look, and if you're Kevin Garnett, you look to your left, you got, to me, Ray Allen's the second best shooter of all time behind only Steph Curry. And that's probably another thing I'm going to upset with people. Oh, I'm surprised that he said it.
Probably in that discussion too.
I put Larry right there 3rd. I would put Larry 3rd, and I put Reggie Miller 4th. But I think Ray Allen's the second. I mean, he would catch the ball, elevate, and release so quick you couldn't defend it. Yeah. And Ray, I almost played against Ray in high school. He came home from UConn. I grew up in Florence, South Carolina, and he played in Sumter, South Carolina. He came home from UConn, so I went over to the Navy base over there, and they had some ballers there at Sumter, South Carolina, or Air Force Base, whatever it was. And he didn't show up that day, but I was already there. And Cliff, I tell you, I don't remember a time on a basketball court my pride was hurt more than this right here. Though that Air Force Base had these two guys on the team. I'm like, all right, let's play some pickups. I'm out there with my boy waiting for Ray Allen to come. He doesn't come that day. He actually came the next day and played, and I wasn't there. But so I'm like, all right, let's get some runs in while we're here. I'm guarding this dude like 5'8", little short 5'8" dude, and I'm drifting back, and I see a dude like just throw up a shot. I'm like, what kind of ugly ass shot is that? And about that time, I turn around and it's almost like balls in my jaws. You know what I mean? Dude, 5'8" dude is just like dunking on me. And I'm like, where did this just come from? And man, I'm just telling you, that Air Force Base, though, I guess people coming from all over the country, they had some hoopers. Ray didn't show up that day, but man, I got dunked on twice by that little 5'8" dude. My pride was hurt.
Hey man, it's hoopers everywhere, man. Shout out to one of my late JUCO teammates, Adelio Williams, man. He's 5'8", could get up. Like I ain't never seen that before. Like dude could get up, man. And so yeah, man, you get caught slipping sometimes, man, out there.
Oh yeah.
And I do want to address your other point about people kind of championing their own era. And I'll give another shout out to a late friend of mine, Dwight Jones, man. He played for the Lakers and the Rockets back in the 60s, 70s. Mm-hmm. His son, Dwight Jones III, played at U of H. That's one of my homies now. So nice. Big D, man, Dwight passed about 4 or 5 years ago, but Big D, you know, he remembers playing for the Showtime Lakers. Now he's one of the 12th guy on the roster, but he thinks Wilt is the greatest of all time. And he had a cogent argument. Like sure. Big D, I can't do it, dog. I can't do Wilt Chamberlain being the best. But in his era, Wilt was the guy because, you know, he's a triathlete. He could jump over buildings in a single bound and block bullets and all that stuff. You know, that's kind of what his.
There was 8 basketball teams. There was 8 basketball teams. Yeah. Like, I mean, the NBA was just like starting. I think they were still playing with peach baskets at that point. Obviously, there's a lot of hyperbole here. I'm exaggerating. But, I mean, there was like 8, 9 basketball teams for most of Wilt's career. And still with the lack of level of competition, Bill Russell is still dominating. They couldn't overtake it. And you might say, well, the Celtics had a better team. Well, if you're the greatest player of all time and playing in the NBA at a time when there's only 8, 9 teams, you can't tell me there's a team so dominant that the greatest player of all time back there in that era couldn't win more titles and couldn't get past Bill Russell and prevent him from winning 11 titles. No, I can't get there with Wilt. And when your competition is Wilt was built like Giannis 50 years ago. They didn't make people like Wilt back then. And he was built like Giannis 50 years ago, and he's going against Dolph Shays. Starting at center against Wilt Chamberlain tonight is Dolph Shays, 6'7", 195 pounds, and after he'll be peeling your tickets at the movie theater across the street. I mean, this is his competition, man. Like 8 teams and they're babies compared to Wilt.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, and Wilt too. I went back and so I made it my point to start looking at more of Wilt to kind of because I want to give him more respect because I respect his athletic prowess. But I'm not gonna lie, man. When Kareem destroyed him with that open letter about him being a quitter, I'm not gonna lie, man. All I see Wilt Chamberlain is a big quitter, man. But I will say, man, that dude was an athletic freak, like you said. He was Giannis Antetokounmpo before Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they were begging him to still play basketball at like 42, 43. Because he's like, man, he was talking like, man, I probably could get out there with those guys, probably, you know, about 10 and 10. They do like 42 years old, and he meant it though. And it wasn't him talking tongue in cheek, you know what I mean? Because he was that great. But to your point, with those, like, it's like 5 teams in the NBA, and you only got what, 2 championships? Right. I got a problem with that.
I can't make my peace with that. Yeah, I can't make my peace with that. And it's back to the Lakers conversation. You mentioned Kareem there. And my favorite thing Kareem ever said, I told you I watched every basketball movie, watched anything, played basketball every day as a kid. I loved it. I mean, I loved it. And my favorite thing Kareem did, I think it was, they asked him, was it towards the end of his career, they asked him, who's the greatest player you ever went up against? And he kept it as real as any NBA player ever said, Earl the GOAT Manigault. And so I had to go study on Earl the GOAT. And I don't know how much was urban legend and how much was real, but taking quarters, like grabbing $1 and leaving 4 quarters up there, like dunking it, taking out the bottom of that and dunking it again. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to believe. I'm a kid, so I'm eating it all up. I'm like, Earl's the greatest ever. And so, but no, I like Kareem. He could have went a million different directions, and he went back with a guy that he grew up with. So that made me think like how serious on another level Earl the GOAT Manigault had to be, that this guy, one of the greatest of all time, played against some of the greatest of all time. And he remembers this young man from the blacktop.
Yeah.
That's how cold Earl to go. I wish if I could go back and watch one basketball play, I'd have to go watch some games of Earl in his prime just to see what Kareem saw.
And it's very possible because I give you two examples. One, LeBron James wasn't even the best player in his class.
Really?
Officially. Like Lenny Cook was better than him. Lenny Cook was a dog, and he used to bust LeBron ass, but he had situations that prevented him from going there. You know, LeBron James is a billionaire, and Lenny Cook, who knows where the guy is right now. Secondly,
the only Lenny I know is Lenny. I've never even heard of Lenny Cook. The only Lenny I know is the one that cried through the whole damn song. You remember that from Kings of Comedy? Girl, you know I love you.
And then I watched TV till the TV went off.
Man, Kings of Comedy was hilarious, but Steve killed that part when he did that song, and they let the whole Lenny Williams song play. He said he loved this woman so much he cried through the whole damn song. Girl, you know I
Hey, that's a song, man. If you don't feel that, man, you ain't got no soul. Man.
No, you don't. You don't. I mean, if I started crying, like my wife left. She comes in, what's wrong? Don't leave me, babe. Don't put me out. Don't put me out. Don't put me. I went some old I went some old school R. Kelly. You know, I mean that's where we ain't even supposed to mention him anymore. But I mean that's how much Lenny knocked me off.
Hey, I'm with it. And so, okay, so I just dang it. That's my train of thought.
Yeah,
what I just bring up?
I don't know. I have the worst attention in the world. I'm going to bounce around to 50 more topics before you let me out of here. We're supposed to be talking about Lakers, great, but I have no attention span.
No, mine is pretty trash too, man. So
good. We're perfect for each other.
Oh, we're talking about guys who are ballers on the blacktop level. And you know what? The greatest example that we can see is Rafer Alston, man. Like, just think about everybody who vouched for Skip before he got an opportunity to play the NBA level.
Great point.
Turned out to be like a average point guard, which is great if your start. Well, I mean, he did play at Fresno State. Cool backstory. My college coach, Byron Rim, at Prairie View, he played JUCO ball with Rafer.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot what JUCO. Pasadena, Pensacola City College. He always talk about this place. And Ray just was, man, he literally was as good as advertised. And he may be the only dude who got a word of mouth NBA contract. Like, everybody just vouched for Ray. You know, he got his and one thing. He was the most popular and one guy. And then, you know, before you know it, he's starting for the Houston Rockets at point guard. He's starting for the Toronto Raptors at point guard.
I had a guy like that back home. When I was a freshman, I grew up in Florence, South Carolina, and went and played at South Florence. I didn't make it in my first game. Me and my coach had a disagreement there on the court. But I was supposed to play for South Florence, and my mom's high school that she went to right next to it, Hartsville, Albert Hainsworth, I think, went to Hartsville as well. From him. Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, Hartsville High School, they had this kid. I think he went to Hartsville. His name was Roderick Moo Blakeney. This kid, I would go watch him play, and they would put a triple team on him, and you just couldn't stop him. And he was the South Carolina scoring leader in all of high school basketball until Raymond Felton broke his record. But Roderick was probably one of the coldest dudes I've ever seen play in person, and then he went overseas and played.
And Ray Allen and KG played in South Carolina. So
Ray played at Sumter. KG played upstate in Spartanburg. And then a senior year, they transferred to Chicago to go to a bigger program to develop. And Jermaine O'Neal, who actually came out of high school there with Kobe. I actually blocked Jermaine when we were 15. We're playing in an AAU tournament, 15 and under AAU tournament. At that time, Jermaine was only like 6'9" and soft as hell. I was 5'11", 160 pounds soaking wet. I'd love to tell you that I went face up with him at the rim. I took the cheap 5'11" way out. He pulled up, pivoted in the lane, pulled up. I came from behind it, took it down. Yeah. A couple years later, he's in the NBA. I'm like, I blocked him. No big deal. I blocked him.
Hey, you got to take your wins, man.
You got to, man. Like, I mean, I almost had a chance to play against Kobe coming up in high school. But I told you, me and my coach didn't see eye to glass eye.
Yeah, that's funny. You know what's funny, man, watching Kobe in high school. It was something about they was going to play against some big team.
Yeah.
It was a little bit after they died when they released his footage. And it was like, so they say there's a guy on the team that's going to shut you down.
Oh.
Kobe just makes the most Kobe things. Like, guess we'll see.
Dude, Kobe was so cold, and he was just that cool just as a high school kid. I'm like, I don't care if he drops 100 on me. I just want to go up against him one time. Because I knew the kid was going to be great even at that time, because he, like you said, he just acted differently as a high school kid. Like, man, what you want to go out there and do today? Might drop 70. I mean, it was just that cool to him. Like, whatever he felt like he needed to do, he would go do it. And his confidence, most humans, their confidence are generated by what the outside public thinks about him, lifts him up now more than ever with social media. How many followers, how many retweets, likes, everything. And if people don't get that, then they'll quit doing it because they don't get that feeling inside of acceptance. Kobe had none of that. Everybody claims ZFGs this day. No, ZFG is just Kobe Bryant, because that's who Kobe was. He's like, you going out there today, man, you're going to be able to win this championship game. Probably, man, I might go score 70. I don't know. I might want to go get a triple-double. I mean, it just felt like Kobe was talking to himself. Everyone else bored him. It's like,
everybody else bored him.
Everyone else bored him. It's like, I'm Kobe Bryant. What are you going to do?
You know, watching him play in high school, he looked just like he looked in the NBA.
You ain't never lied.
He's one of the top 3 high school NBA footages. It's him, Chris Webber, and Jordan was really tough too, boy.
Don't leave out Zion. Don't leave out Zion. So
Zion, now Zion looked a little cheap to me because he was so much bigger.
Don't do that.
I'm just saying, I didn't see a lot of skill. So now he was killing them dudes. I'll give him that. But I watched Chris Webber with these post moves he had in high school. You know, because dudes just say Jermaine O'Neal was soft. That's usually what you see from a 6'9", even if they're talented out their ass.
Right.
I also would say Tyson Chandler was probably up there as far as high school. Like,
I've heard that. I don't remember him coming out of high school, but you're not the first person I heard say that. I've heard a lot of people say
he's
this.
A legend out here. He went to Dominguez. Tyson Chandler was that. So it's funny how he turned to a plotting big. He was supposed to be KG 2.0. That's who Tyson Chandler was supposed to have been.
Wow.
That's why they got him and Eddie Curry in the same draft, because Eddie Curry was the plotting big. Tyson Chandler was supposed to be the versatile big.
I got a bone to pick with Zion because I mentioned him. All right, so my hometown, I'm originally from Florence, South Carolina, and the way I am, I'm always the type, I love seeing people I know, even if I haven't seen them in years. I love seeing people succeed that I know, and so I just always put on, because coming from Florence, South Carolina, man, it was hard for me to get scouts and everything. I get to Houston and it's like the #1 recruit hotbed, like baseball, basketball, football. Everybody across the country is going to come to Houston, and you're going to get seen if you play sports in Houston in high school. Yeah. Florence, South Carolina wasn't the same way. So I've always just tried to, put on for people who's coming up from South Carolina, especially if they're from Florence, my hometown or thereabouts. And then I hear about this kid, Zion Williamson, and I go find out he's from South Carolina. And I find out at age 2, he moved to Florence, South Carolina. And at age 15, he's getting ready to start high school in Florence, South Carolina. I don't know if he's going to go to my high school or anything else. And I find out his stepdad talked him into transferring up there around Spartanburg, around Clemson and everything else. So his whole high school career, he didn't play in Florence. But he grew up in Florence, South Carolina from age 2 to 15. And also when he played AAU in South Carolina, him and Ja Morant, I know a lot of people know this story now, but him and Ja in high school on the same team. And I upset a lot of people when I put Ja ahead of Zion in that draft. And it wasn't a hot take. I know a lot of people think it's that, but I just thought Ja, when I studied his tape, as much as I saw Zion, I saw the ceiling, but I felt Zion was more of a Sean Kemp, like real talented, somewhere between Sean Kemp and Larry Johnson, somewhere in between there for Zion. And then I looked at Ja, and when I went into that draft, I was like, he's probably going to be number 2. And I wasn't really big on Barrett. So shout out to RJ Barrett, because he was LaMelo before LaMelo for me. I didn't think he would rework that shot. What's he hitting? About 39% from 3 this year. Salute that young man for developing that shot in 2 years. That being said, Ja had actually ahead of Zion, because I studied his film, and man, he jumped out to me. Derrick Rose pre-injury, and a lot of people forget Derrick Rose was an alien, and you typically don't think point guards as aliens. Derrick Rose before the injury was an alien. I'm just looking at Ja, and I'm like, he might be better than Derrick Rose was before the injury. And so I think Ja will actually be the better NBA player. We're going to have to give it about another year or 2 before we really start seeing the trajectory start level off. But I still feel confident in that. And I think both of them are special talents.
No, I'm with that. And I just thought about my story. Man, Will always got my back, man. Again, man, y'all sub to this channel, man. Between the Game Sports, man. My high school teammate. We played at Stephen F. Austin at different times as well, man. And so, yeah, Kobe really believed he's better than MJ at 16. Heard a crazy story from a guy that was cool with T-Mac. I heard that same story. He was like, I'm better than Jordan right now.
That's how you have to be. You played ball, Cliff. Let me ask you, every time I stepped on the court, people would get upset at me because I'm skinny white kid, you know what I mean? 5'11", 160 pounds in the 9th grade. And I started dunking when I was 15 in 9th grade. I wasn't athletically gifted. I just grinded every day. And so by 9th grade, I'm 5'11", 160 pounds. I finally dunk. I go get my brother out the cafeteria. Get your best friend. Come to the gym. You know what I mean? My brother's 2 years older than me. He played football for the high school, and he couldn't dunk. So I'm like, come to the gym. And we're down there at lunch, and I'm dunking at 15. Anyway, I wasn't athletically gifted. I just had to train and teach myself and just work, just like the same thing with this industry. I didn't have the voice for this industry. I didn't have the talent. I didn't go to Syracuse. I just worked and kept listening and adapting my styles to everything to be able to get a radio job in this industry. Well, it's the same thing with all that. You know, when I played basketball, I just grinded. But with Kobe, you typically have guys that either have raw talent and they just live off of that and they'll do the drills that they're told.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have guys who don't have that raw talent and they'll just work the technique. Kobe had the raw talent, unlike most specimens, and he had the work ethic. Whenever you get those two blended together, because as great as Jerry Rice was, he wasn't a physical freak like a Kobe Bryant, but he had that work ethic.
Yeah.
With Kobe, you take that Jerry Rice work ethic and you add it to the athleticism that Kobe had, and in that frame he was blessed with, he was just a special being. And we're talking about who's the best Laker of all time. One of the reasons I take Kareem out, yes, him and Magic did so many great things in that decade's time. 5 titles together there in 10 years. Love it. Don't want to take anything away from Magic or Kareem, but if we're talking about the best Laker of all time, Kareem played 14 years of his historic career there with the Lakers, and 6 times, so like almost half of those seasons, he failed to score more than 22 points a game. So when he was with Milwaukee, he played 6 years in Milwaukee with the Bucks. And in those 6 years, he scored 27 points or more. He averaged for 6 years. He averaged 27 points or more a game for 6 years, won 1 title. He went to the Lakers, took more of a backseat role. I don't want to say backseat, but a complimentary role there with Magic where they're 1A and 1B. And he only had 1 season, his first year with the Lakers, that he hit 27 points per game. He never did it again the rest of his career. In 6 of those years with the Lakers, he averaged 22 points per game or less. Kobe spent 20 years with the Lakers, even when he broke down, even when the trials and the cases hit him, everything went. When Shaq and him had it out, he stuck by the Lakers for 20 years, became one of the best. Only player in the last 40 years, only player in my lifetime to score 65 points or more in a game twice. Only player. I'm 42 years old. The only player to ever do it. And he could have did it more if he wanted to. Kobe Bryant's the greatest Laker of all time. No disrespect to Magic, Kareem, and to a lesser extent, Shaq.
Yeah, and I think, and this does whittle down to the big 3, which is Magic, Kobe, and Kareem. I do want to give, I'm not a big Jerry West guy, but I don't want to act like he did exist. One of the only guys to win a finals MVP and lose the finals. So I think that's a testament of how he played, or a bias with the voting. However you want to do it, it's a tidbit.
He can't be the logo anymore, right?
I don't really care, man.
I know you don't, and it's not a thing that is going to drive me, but I mean, if you look at where the NBA is and what they did in 2020 and the social awareness and everything they're bringing to it, all right, Jerry West, you had a good career many years ago. Is Jerry West a top 20 player all time, in your opinion?
No.
It's not even in the conversation. And the NBA, I'm saying this as a white dude. The NBA is 90% black. Why is Jerry West the logo? Well, I mean, why is Jerry West the logo? I mean, and if Jerry West is the greatest player of all time, I don't care about his race. But we've got a guy that people in the circles from the 60s and 70s, they love Jerry. He's a good old guy. He was a pretty good basketball player there for the Lakers and then in the front office. Why are you the logo? Why are you the sign of the entire NBA when 90% of the league is black? So to me, I just think, again, it's not one of those things. I'm not looking for a hot button issue. I just think with where we're we're going and where we're moving towards the future. Over the last 5 years, we've been going through a purge in this country to steal from life imitating art. We're going through a purge where old ways of thinking to where we're just so tied to what our ancestors and what our fathers and grandfathers thought and taught us and everything else. All of that's being purged. Everybody that's still putting that hate on display, they're slowly being squished out from society. It may take another 10, 20 years for this purge, but again, y'all gonna probably think I'm high, but go back to Star Trek. What's happened in the USA over the last 10, 20 years, or in America, in the world, Star Trek, you see it all starts coming together, and we start learning from our mistakes of the past, and I just see that, and I feel like I'm seeing that in the last couple of decades, and it's tough because anytime you go through a purification process, it's going to be ugly. There's going to be strife, and there's going to be people at each other's throat, but you go through the process for what's going to come out the other side. And I think where we're going in the future, we've just got to get everything right. And again, it's not a major issue, but just Jerry West as a logo makes no sense to me. That's it. Well, it's not a hot button issue. It's not a political issue. It don't make sense to me.
I'm gonna go with it straight pragmatism. The NBA has one of the most recognizable logos in the world.
Okay, like fair enough.
Like, you know, that it's just a classic symbol, and I'm with you. Jerry West, I don't hold him in high regard at all. Now, as a behind the scenes GM guy, I think Jerry West is a damn beast. Mm-hmm. As far as his actual basketball career, I mean, he's to be respected. I mean, if you put on a professional basketball jersey and you were exemplary, you know, you should get some type of kudos. Now, did he deserve to be the logo? Absolutely not.
The face of the NBA.
Well, so he's the face, but he's more the silhouette of the NBA. He's not the face. Like kids who watch the NBA don't see, oh, Jerry West. No, they see a white dude with a basketball. So,
well, here's the thing, though, because you bring in the NFL and Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball silhouette on their logo. I don't know. I mean, so I'll plead ignorance here. It's not in anybody's image, right? The Major League Baseball logo. I don't think it's in anybody's image. NFL's logo, their logo is just the shield, and we've got to protect the shield. So they talk about how important it is. The NFL, if I'm not mistaken, has changed their shield logo about 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years. So if the NFL is that cognizant of it, if all these teams focus so much on it and the organizations and everything, and if you're in a league that is 90% black, if it's not for black athletes, let's just be honest. I mean, if it's not for black athletes, 90% of the league, then you've got this guy, and if he's the greatest player, okay, that's why he's the logo. If he's not the greatest player, why? Just tell me why in 2021 is Jerry okay. Why is he the logo?
Well, okay, so I look at it this way. To me, that's like getting candy to satiate an appetite. So to get a black guy on the logo, whoop-de-doo, who cares?
Okay.
90% of 95% of ownership is white. 90% of coaching is white.
So you're saying change needs to happen.
So if I'm more worried about giving brothers jobs than a token olive branch, as it were, to be a black.
Why are they mutually exclusive, though? So here's my thing. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I'm saying I think we're moving forward in a direction where a lot of this is going to be rectified. And we're seeing it. We're not seeing it at the pace we want to see it, but we're seeing it. And at some point in the future, race is really going to become more trivial. It's always been trivial, but because we've put so much on it from every standpoint, then it becomes weighted. But at this point, race has always been trivial. And as we go forward in the next 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to see race has become more trivial than ever before. You lived here in Houston. I live in Houston now. So let me tell you what happened back in 2018. 2018, not New York City, but Houston, Texas became the most diverse city in America. And they said by the year 2050 that the rest of America in 2050 will look like Houston does in 2018. If people have problems with race and sexuality or anything else, it's on you. I mean, you're going to just have to move on, because here in Houston, like, the diversity and everything is coming worldwide. We're all going to become more and more like each other. And if people have an issue with it, it's on them. Quit telling other people to move back where they come from or go to a different country, because it's the people who are moving towards us that don't have an issue. We all want to be here. We all want to be a part of that diversity as we learn from each other. Like, people think I act one way or act a different way. No, I'm a product of my environment. At no point in my life was I anything other than Jayson Braddock, but I came out and I didn't come out segregated like a lot of people around me did there in rural South Carolina. I hung out with every single person, and just like you get a piece of your mom or your dad or your best friend or your brother or your cousins. If you hang out with everybody as you grow a part of everybody. And that's what's going to happen in America by 2030, 2040 and beyond. And so don't fault me for already being that back in 1978.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way.
And I'm not, when I say don't fault me, I'm not talking you directly, Cliff.
No,
just in general.
I mean, hey, one thing, you know, I'm not sensitive.
Already.
You learned it about your boy. But no, so, FYF comes with a decent comment. Well, a good comment about this. It says the NBA does not acknowledge Jerry West as the logo. They just selected a player random when creating the logo. And I heard something similar to that. And let's just say that comment it's just wrong. The day is long.
Okay.
I'm going to still err towards what I was stating at first, is that I think as a black man who observes a black league as far as the players, I can look past that. Like, I don't need to slap a black player on the logo and me to be satiated. Well, I feel like we've made an advancement, because to me, again, that's feeding candy when I need my appetite.
Nourished. You're looking for nourishment, and that's just a treat.
And it's just, and so I think in these entities, they do those things a lot, and just to shut you up for a while, and sometimes a long while. And I look past that, though. I look past the token gesture. That's what makes me a great salesman in real life. So it's called overcoming objections. So when people tell me some little bullshit statement, I'm like, okay, why did you tell me that bullshit statement? Not the fact that what you came out your mouth. What are you really trying to angle towards?
Was it leading to
without buying something? So that's how I always look at everything that it is. So that wouldn't move me at all. But I'm not mad at your perspective, because no. Perspective.
And that's it. That's the other thing we're going to get through. People will hear these conversations and feel like they got to take a side or not. It's not about the side. It's about the conversation. The conversations need to be had. And if we don't mutually agree, there's nothing you said to me that's offensive. There's nothing I said to you that's offensive.
Absolutely.
The conversations need to be had. And if it comes to it to where the agreement is that, hey, well, there's no issue with the logo, let's leave it as it is, I have no issue with that. But again, from my personal assessment, where I see it, where we move forward, and I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think you can get that nourishment of them actually giving you something cognitive while also getting the dessert of changing the logo to something more in line with what the NBA is about. Your logo is supposed to represent what you're about. The NFL, I've listened to press release after press release over the last 10 years about what the shield means, and don't put dirt on the shield and don't spit on the shield. And we've got to honor and respect
like
these billion-dollar businesses care about their logo, and the BS about, well, there wasn't no thought, we just picked. Okay, it's not NBA Top Shot. They're not just getting a $9 pack, and whatever pack opens up, that's going to be the NBA logo. They put a lot of thought in this. They put a lot of money into it. They fine tune it. They high definition it. There's a reason Jerry West is the logo and other players aren't. And in 2021, it doesn't make sense for Jerry West to be the logo. Again, that's the dessert. It's not the main course. Other changes need to be had. They will. They're not mutually exclusive. This is part of the change, though.
You know what? I don't think they even care, though. I think
fair enough.
To get people to buy in, you have to talk to your constituents. And the NFL knows conservative white guys is the people who bankroll their business. So you're going to have these staunch talking points to satiate that group, because there's the main people consuming your product. So with that being said, that's cool that they're saying that, but behind locker room talk, I promise I would make an educated guess that, like, they don't give a shit about that. It's my check clearing, it's the bottom line getting taken care of. All right, let me go home and make love to my prostitutes before I go home to my wife.
Nice.
I go on that level.
Yeah, I mean, they don't care. I mean, like Robert Kraft got busted at the Jack Shack and it got brushed under billionaires don't live in our world. The 1% don't live in our world.
Not even close.
What the funny thing is that, like, you have people that are dead broke and struggling, and they're just like you or someone else or me, and going through all these struggling, and they're sitting here and they're just looking through magazines at how rich people are living and what they're doing, and like defending them and fighting with other people that's in the same income struggles as they are to defend the rich people. And it's like America, open your eyes. We've been separated since birth. 1%. I'm not a political person. I'm just speaking facts to you. Get in your feelings if you want to get in your feelings. These are just facts. You can look them up. 1% of the people in this world own 99% of the wealth. The rest of us, and I'm in that boat with you, the rest of us, the other 99% have 1%. So if we started a society on Mars tomorrow, because all these rich people trying to leave us and go to Mars, I'm peeping game. And so if we start a society on Mars tomorrow, they're not taking us. They're taking that 1% of the wealth because that's the top of society, you know? So, I mean, I've been watching this stuff and I just bite my tongue because if you put anything out, everyone thinks you're crazy or insane or some conspiracy theorist. I'm like, no, I'm just telling you facts. Since birth, you are separated because if you start a society on Mars and you said in the society, hey, 1% of us is going to own 99% of the wealth in this new industry. The other 99% of the people we're here with, we're only going to give them 1% of the wealth. And it's not going to work. The only way it works is here and in most countries, that 1% that holds all the political power and the struggle, they're in it together. They're in it together. And the way they keep the power is they have to separate the 99%. So they separate you by sexuality. They separate you by race. They separate you by faith, income. Every single thing that you think you really care about is fake. I mean, you're fighting over nonsense. Your beliefs. If you believe in a God, if you're atheist, if you don't, it doesn't matter to me. You got one life. Do you? I mean, that's all I care about. As long as your life, you don't disrespect me. I'm like Zero. I'm a sucker for disrespect. I'm gonna get mine. I'm a sucker for respect. You know what I mean?
So, Zero reference.
That's it, man. Just give me respect. I'm a fool about it. And that's it. Anything else, I'll let everybody else make it. Do you? I'm going to do me. And your opinion of me doesn't factor into one thought of my day. But I do get frustrated in seeing how stupid we are as a society that we let the 1% manipulate us all. And we all spend all day fighting on social media, in person, arguing like we're being played. We've always been played.
We've always been played, and I think that was a beautiful analogy, and that's why I don't care about the shield or the logo. Because
fair enough.
When you
start
fighting over stuff that is so insignificant, when you don't even have a modicum of an idea of what goes on that top level.
Salute, great point. I didn't even think about it that way. That's great
so
point,
it's just like I gotta not be satiated by a small gesture when you know the real game. The real game is game.
Right,
exactly. It's really a game within a game, man. And I know everybody says that. Chess, not checkers. I know, anybody can, pseudo intellectualism, what they call it.
Right.
But I really do like what you just, like I said, you beautifully laced that out. And that is literally the world we live in.
It is.
That's why I try not to let stuff that the 1% have figured out a long time ago. And they have it in place for us to be there long after our death. And our kids' death. And their kids' death.
You ever watched the movie Snowpiercer?
No, I have not.
All right, there's a movie came out, Snowpiercer. I never watched it until about a month or so ago, Cliff, and I'm going somewhere here with you. This isn't one of my ADHD moments. And they also made a TV show. I haven't gotten to the TV show yet. I think they got 2 seasons. And I haven't read anything. I don't go on to blog sites and read what people think about movies. So I just think how I always see a message in a movie. And there's most movies and entertainment out there. There's a message in it. You got to look for it. Go watch that Snowpiercer movie when you get a chance. The whole plot and everything without telling us the end of the world, you can't live outside. And there's this whole train that everybody lives on. The rich people at the front and the people that had to sneak on because the rich people are going to let us on at the end of the world. It's too cold outside to live. You all have to live on this train. And there's a status from the front of the train all the way to the back. And you just see how people live. Open your eyes. That movie wasn't made just for entertainment. That movie's telling you everything that goes on, not only in America, but in our world. That movie's about the 1% and the 99%. No matter if this world changed, the next world's going to be the exact same because we're too dumb to realize we're on the same team and we're still fighting against each other in this world.
And it plays on humans' carnal nature. Humans' carnal nature is domination.
Absolutely.
It's not peace and harmony. And you see it in the animal kingdom. You literally see it everywhere. So, and it sucks because if you ain't a part of the 1%, who wants to be part of the 99?
Right.
That's what sucks. And I think FYF made a good comment with this as well. Says similar to how to get the t-shirt and slogans, the NBA bubble did nothing for us afterward. Because, and here's the thing, man, and I don't want to go into the letter community. However, and I went on record about this a lot. Black Lives Matter. When you look up what that really is, when you look up the manifesto, it ain't for straight brothers. And I will put it that way, and I'll leave it right there. And if you don't believe me, go to the website, read the mission of the organization. So when I see them putting shirts out with the symbolism, what is actually going on to better our state in this country. And to me, putting on a shirt that says "Say her name," Black Lives Matter, that's doing nothing, because here we are a year later, and we're still having the same perils. Forget that.
I see the tie-in. Yeah, I see the tie-in.
30 years ago.
Yeah, I see the tie-in you're making with the logo and this, and some people might say, hey, well, that's a bit of the reach. No, you're not saying the situations are the same. What you're saying is the understanding that the analogy is the same, like to where they're giving you, they're giving you a piece of gum as a compliment for coming, as opposed to giving you a seat at the table.
Yeah, and that's all it is. And I don't even want to go too far on this, but I love the fact that we have this, in Discord on this level, because a lot of people, when they get to
they get in their emotions. They get in emotions because everybody thinks they're right, and they get into it, and it goes somewhere else, and you start reading into where you think they're going. But I just like having the conversations. See, I said when social media came out, and I still say this all the time, social media has made us antisocial. People are so fake. Like you were talking about Zero. Zero to me is the second best rapper of all time, only behind Biggie Smalls. And Zero's been doing it for 20 years. And no matter what mood you're in, he has something for you. And Zero's never sold out. And what I mean by that, anybody that listens to new rap, you realize new rap mostly 99% sold out. Like how Drake got popular and Zero's still only known in Texas and mostly in Houston is a crime. I mean, like Zero just speaks truth and realness to you. No matter what you're going through in life, he's got something for you that speaks a story. This ain't about race. This is about life. And he tries. I think it just opens up a lot of mind. If people that don't know Zero, I know a lot of people probably outside this Texas market's not familiar with them, but
man, I can find some row. Yeah, man.
Oh man, I could give you 50 rows right now. I mean, top 5 rappers all time: Biggie, Roe, Nas, Pac, and Eminem. 5 best. Now we just started another hour and a half. They mad now.
Hey, I'm on the north side, man. I'm more of a Slim Thug, man. I'm not saying he can rap with Roe. I'm not saying that. Right. I just rather listen to Slim Thug than Roe. But no, I mean, you know what? I've grown on Roe. I did not like him at all.
Really?
I think he's a little too melancholy for me. Like everything was usually downtrodden when he first started. Just, I don't need no friends. I'm one deep. That's kind of
one deep for life.
Hey, man, it's my style. Not my style.
I got you.
But I respect Roe, though. I respect Roe. Hey, question for you, Jayson, man.
Okay.
So what's the most interesting, intriguing, weird person you've interacted or interviewed?
What's the most what's the what now?
The most interesting or weird individual that you've interacted with in the media game or that you've interviewed?
Oh, I don't want to tell too much. So
give the radio friendly first.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like, all right, what is considered throwing under the bus? I would just say, and I typically don't talk about this too much, but I mean, I'll be honest, if anybody asks me anything, probably the weirdest person and the guy, like I typically like everybody. They call me the Dean of Do You because I just tell everybody, do you. You got one life, do you. I mean, it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You just got to find happiness. And that's why I always pursue my dreams, because after this life, whether I succeed or fail, it's over with. I mean, so I'm just going to push forward. But the one guy, I'm 42 years old. I've been a remote control engineer. I've worked for the CEO of a cell phone company at 20 years old, opening new business all over the country. I've worked so many different things, but I've only been fired twice in my life at 42 years old. And both times was because of this guy who worked at the radio station with me, first at Sports Talk 790, then at ESPN 975. Just a weird cat. But I mean, there's a lot of people like that in this industry and in life in general, because we're living during an era now where fake is real and real is fake. But real people, they don't get the respect like they used to, like when we came up. Now fake people get the respect. I mean, you've got people, most of the people, adults in this generation, whining on social media, looking out there, trying to get the most likes, retweets, favorites, grow their fan base. Like, I mean, if you do that, cool. And if it's for business, you got to do it. All right, understand that. But y'all are so emotionally attached to this fake world. Social media ain't real. These motherfuckers out here taking 20 minutes to take one picture to post on social media, trying to tell you some uplifting stuff, and they're probably in the worst mood of their life. It's all fake, and I don't give in to any of it. But I know my attention span's weird. I bounced and touched on 5 different things there. To put a bow in it, though, I would say the idiot that worked at, I got fired twice in 42 years, and all the jobs I've ever had, they've both been in this radio industry, and they've both been for the same guy. I wouldn't give him the respect to mention his name. he's a no talent, fat ass. I mean, cost me my job twice, man. Yeah, and I tell you, I let everybody make it. I gave him a pass the first time. He came back and cost me a job, followed me to another radio station, and ended up costing me a job there. So, fool me once, fool me twice. You know the saying.
Yeah, man, that sucks, man. Because I remember being introduced to you listening to Hustle Town with Craig Shelton.
Yeah, we had Scarface come on there with us. You know, Craig grew up with Scarface. They grew up in the same neighborhood and everything. So that's how he pulled it. Like he got Kiki, he had Scarface. We had a lot of different stuff planned. But yeah, Craig Shelton, really good dude. Goes back to his days at Sports Radio 610 when they used to refer to him as Lesbian Craig back in the day. Right. He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
No, he's a good dude, and he was in Hoop Jargon for a little bit too. I know he's kind of like backed off social media the last few years, but I liked his show he had where he would bring you on. He would bring in
Barry Warner.
He would bring in Route. He would bring in
Stanford. Stanford Route's blowing up now. Like I saw him on Colin Cowherd.
Really?
Like, he's doing national stuff. And when me and Craig used to bring Stanford Route on with us, a smart dude. And you remember
he's really good.
Went to U of H at the combine, ran like a 4.28 or 4.27, super fast. Raiders drafted him. Then he came back home, played for the Texans a little bit. Me and Craig would bring Route on and we just talk about stuff. But at that time, you could see the intellect, but the delivery wasn't there. Then we kind of fell out of contact over the last couple of years. You know how it is. Everybody starts doing their own life or whatever. And then I look on Facebook one day and I see him on there sitting in the sofa and Cowherd interviewing him, and the dude is going off flawless. I mean, that's what I'm telling you. All you got to do is just sharpen your craft. Anybody can do this.
If I can do this, happened, though. I'm sure Nick Wright probably brought him in.
He might have. I don't know. Yeah, it might have. But I don't know. I just know. I mean, the biggest point to that is that Stanford, the credit to him, how much he grew his craft. Because when he came on with me and Craig, the intellect was there and the knowledge, the X's O knowledge, but he didn't have the delivery yet. Yeah. I disappeared for a couple of years, didn't see him. And then all of a sudden I just see him doing even his own podcast. He's been invited to do TV shows, radios. The dude is sharp and his arrow's still trending up. Abdul Foster as well too. Aaron's brother Abdul worked with me at ESPN 975 when we had the show there at Late Hits. He worked with me for a couple months. That dude's gifted, good dude, great dad. Those are two guys the arrows are pointing up on, both of those guys.
And I like to hear that because I've been outside of Houston for about 3.5 years. I lived in Dallas for 2 years and then here for about 1.5 years. So I got kind of used to the ESPN Dallas guys.
Sure.
Clarence and
Clarence Hill.
Clarence Hill. Right? He's like sometimes the funny black dude. I have to get his name. Glasses on.
Clarence. Is it Clarence?
I think it's Clarence. He's really good at his job, man. And,
that Dallas. What's interesting about sports radio, I don't know if your listeners know this, and it might not be interesting, it might be boring, but Houston, even though it's the 4th largest city in America, it's a horrible sports radio market, and it probably plays back into our diversity melting pot, people from all over.
I've been saying that to people.
They're attached. They're attached to the teams where they came from, and the reason why the Astros since 2017 have the most fans in Houston is because they won the title. When you move to a new city, if you're like me or like Cliff, and you've ever moved to a new city, if they win that title, you attach real quick, especially if you just moved into that city that year, you become. So with this being such a city full of diversity and a melting pot from people all over, I think they've adapted more to the Astros. But outside of that, they keep their fan roots back to where they moved from typically. Houston Sports Radio isn't considered a major market radio where Dallas is. Yeah, Dallas gets, you're talking about, to put it in a rating standpoint, Dallas radio is probably getting you 6, 7, 8 points. Houston radio is probably getting you 3.
Yeah, and it should be
that's how big of a difference it is. You hate to see it, especially if you work in the industry, but there's some talented people here in the Houston market that do sports radio, but
John Taylor.
Who's that?
John Jock Taylor.
Okay. Name. Yeah. All right. So, I remember you talking about now.
You know, as we've been doing the ADD thing all the time. Man. So,
that's us. And I'll follow you right up with it because you're talking my language. This might be the easiest show for me to ever follow with, because when I'm doing sports radio, I got to dress it up a little bit. It's like, all right, and welcome back to ESPN 97.5 here, and we're getting ready to go. You got to do that to sell the advertisement, Yeah. Unless I move to the Atlanta market, then I'll just hide my identity and probably can sell some advertisement. But in the Houston market, I don't sell well.
I can only imagine, man. You gotta. I remember when Craig was doing the show, and you would see some of the businesses he had paying advertisement space on it. I guess that's when I started being more astute about how the game goes. And I did notice in the Dallas market. I mean, I told people this, and I love the Cowboys, but I hate everything else. Like I will not put a cape on for Dallas. Ever.
I got you. All right.
But the product is better, man. It is what it is, and the fans, as a collective,
they're loyal.
Are better.
Yeah.
Houston is one of the worst sports cities because, I mean, I only like the Astros now. I don't like the Rockets anymore. I don't like the Texans anymore. I let them both go when they were winning. I just don't like Houston sports culture. I do not like it. Then here's why. Houston fans have a propensity to not give credit to teams that have won championships, and which that leads to a championship type of, how can I put it, of a culture. Mm-hmm. So Houston fans, the way they do it, every year starts over. No such thing as legacy. No such thing as respect for somebody else. Every year is just our year. It's going to happen. And if it don't, oh, well, next year it's going to do it again. Like, no, that's why you win. That's how you build reputation of continuing success. And Houston fans, in my opinion, that's why U of H, they struggle to draw. TSU struggles to draw.
Well, the U of H thing, though, I mean, if you ever put them in a Power 5, U of H just takes off. This market, the Houston market, baseball, basketball, football, if you've got a kid that wants to, you need scouts to see them, you need to be in the Houston market.
Agreed.
So, I mean, U of H, probably the biggest travesty, and I'm a Clemson fan. I grew up in South Carolina. You were talking about different sports, and we talked about when we were younger, I was a Kobe fan. I liked Penny. I liked all that. Well, when I got in this industry, I did have loyalty to some teams, but you start covering these teams and you get to know the owners, not get to know them, but you have conversations with them. You hear stuff behind the scenes. You get to cover the teams. Your fandom goes out the window, whether you want it to or not. And I've been doing it for 10 years now. I'd say probably about 4 or 5 years ago, all my fandom went out the window because I got blind spots in different areas where I would see stuff. I'd have access to players that I didn't have to others, and it would throw off my trajectory. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, all my fandom went out the way. The only teams I really root for now is just one, is Clemson, and that's because that's growing up in South Carolina. I've been a Clemson fan since I was a baby, but and that's it. That's it, though. I don't have loyalty to any of these teams, but you watch the Houston sports franchises where they were 3-4 years ago. Like, if you can see behind me, Cliff, I've got these Funko Pops because I'm a big weirdo. And, but there's a row there, that top row above the sign that says, "Be a nice human," if you can see it.
Yeah.
All those guys are gone except Verlander. And I mean, he's basically, I think you're talking about Russ Westbrook, James Harden, JJ Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, and Justin Verlander with the injury and everything. All those guys were here just a couple years ago. You didn't have the Deshaun Watson legal case and everything going on. What happened to Houston sports? I started a business in 2018 because of those guys. And I called it Houston Preeminence because I said, hey, this window's open for the next 3 to 5 years for Houston sports to become title town. Yeah. And instead of becoming title town, it turned into that. Washington Wizards, Brooklyn Nets, injured, Arizona. I mean, that's what happened to Houston sports. So yeah, it's in probably the worst spot I've seen it in quite some time.
Yeah, especially now with the Deshaun situation, especially now with the Rockets just being in the toilet. Yeah, man, it's going to be rough, man. And the Astros kind of like, last time I saw, like, kind of treading water a little bit with 500.
They're actually on fire now. I don't follow baseball. I only did it when I did sports radio, but I'm getting ready. I can't announce where I'm going, but this July I'm moving back to the fantasy realm. I've already started working and everything, but the guy who runs the site, we haven't launched the site yet. We're going to launch it probably June, July. I'm going back into fantasy. What I'll be doing going forward for them is I'll continue to do the NFL and NBA drafts. I'm gearing up up for the NBA draft in about a month, and I'll be doing fantasy outside the draft content. I'll be doing fantasy for NBA and NFL. Baseball, I covered it. I got to know it really well. It's mostly just the Houston Astros, doing sports radio the last 10 years, but it was never a passion of mine. I hate baseball. I'm gonna just be honest with you. Yeah, I hate baseball. If I want to go to, this is the oddity about me, Cliff, though. If I want to go to a game, I don't want to go to football or basketball. I'd rather watch that at home on TV and study and see everything. Baseball, though, I want to go out to, baseball is the game I would go to, because you can just go out there, kick your feet up. Nothing happens except like every 15 minutes. So you can just relax, get some emails done, and like, oh, look, something's happening on this baseball field over here. The white balls actually hit part of the grass and someone's on base. This is exciting. This should be a sport. Let's give people millions of dollars for doing this.
No, I mean, well, so baseball is my first sport, so I'm not gonna lie. I have more of a stomach. I got more of a stomach for baseball.
You should have told me that before I just I would have still bashed the sport. It's still a trash sport.
You ain't hurt my feelings.
Okay.
It's a boring game, man.
That being said, baseball had their time as America's pastime. NFL still living theirs. I've upset a lot of my friends in the NFL community because they're real insecure about this, but the NBA will be America's pastime by 2030. The NBA will pass the NFL and will be America's pastime by 2030. I've been talking about this for the last 3-4 years. The way millennials consume sports, the way the Red Zone channel and fantasy sports are pulling away from it, our attention spans, 2-hour games instead of 3.5-hour games, constant action on a basketball court, dunks, throwing down the millennial markets, how we move together. Because the biggest thing hurt the NBA is that 90% of this league is black. Now, a white person is not supposed to come on your video and tell you that, but 90% of the NBA being black has hurt its sport, not because of the play, but because you have that part of racist society that won't embrace the sport as it will the NFL. We saw how many people turned off the NFL just because you had a guy who was holding the title of president taking shots at the league. And we're a world of followers. 90% of the world of followers, only 10% of leaders. So they have to be told what to think. And so they go out there, get their opinion. They go back and they go to their group that they feel comfortable with, and they share their collective opinion. But where we're moving forward, and as all this stigma with race and separation starts to fall off, I feel by the time 2030 gets here, where we're moving as a society and the way our attention span is and how we watch sports, the NBA will surpass the NFL by 2030 and be America's pastime.
Okay. Well, shout out to Patrick Oakford. We talked about the U of H Cougars. He's a former player for that program. So he
last name was Okafor?
That a little bit, huh?
Did you say his last name was Okafor?
Yeah.
Related to the Texas players that went to the NFL? I think there was Alex Okafor. There's a couple Okafors that came out of Texas. Huh?
I don't know. Pat, are you I know all y'all Nigerians are related. Any other?
Shout out to Indy Kalu. My guy, Indy Kalu. Let me tell you, again, my attention span, I'm everywhere, Cliff. Apologies. I'll send you an apology later. But Indy Kalu, you wanted some behind-the-scenes stuff on the radio industry. I know a lot of people are 6'10", a lot of people 7'9", a lot of people ESPN 975, all fantasy industry. Everybody I've worked in this industry, I don't think I've met a more genuine, real-ass good dude like Indy Kalu. I will I'll take a bullet for Indy Kalu. That's how good that guy is. If you want to support somebody in the Houston sports scene, Indy Kalu's number one on that list just for being he's just an amazing dude.
Okay. That's dope, man. And what you find is, even like, again, the YouTube game where I've kind of embarked on, I've grown my following up. And follow the channel if y'all have not done that. Please, we're giving you an hour and 33 minutes of our heart and soul, man.
There you go. I got to go re-up. I mean, like, my dude in Fifth Ward waiting on me, Cliff. I got to go re-up, but I'm having so much fun here. I'm going to just keep rolling with you.
Hey, man, and let me know when you need to go handle business, because I thought see, here's the thing. When you get two ADD people, man,
right,
it's just going to be
we're just going to keep going until we stop. Like 1990s Houston hip-hop freestyles till the tape stopped. You remember the Fat Pat freestyles, the whole A side, like, damn, tape pop. Flip that bitch over there. And he starts, I'm paraphrasing. He's just like, man, they bring the beat back. He starts going again. 90s Houston freestyle was about the only freestyles I respected. No disrespect to New York, but a lot of their freestyles, I found out, like, I'm like, hold up, that's writ. All that stuff's written down. That's not off the dome. They're not coming straight off the head. And then you get to Houston and you hear these guys doing battles and everything. It's a different style, but everything was just straight off the dome, nothing written. It was customized to that conversation and everything. Yep. And then when one would fall off, bam, another dude right next to him jump right back on. And it was real freestyle. And it wasn't like, all right, let me remember some lyrics from a song I put in a notebook back in the 8th grade.
Because you sounded goofy. If you try to do that, you sounded goofy when boys were kind of like with the man hold up with the slow. Man, I went to
hold up, got it in my cup. You remember that same flow? They had that old 90s flow, everything. Man, I sitting on my shoulder. Man, hold up. He had to have the hand over the map. You swinging Woodrow. Lane coming down with the 25.
Hey, I done been in many parked cars flowing for about an hour before you go to the club because you just feeling it, man.
You're swinging 6 lanes on 610 on ball tires with the wires coming out because Bun B want to drop High Life. I'm telling you right now, Bun B's verse on High Life, go listen to it right now. He wrote this back in the mid-90s, and rappers now still don't have this type of wordplay. As great as UGK is my favorite rap group ever, by far. You right behind him's Outkast, but UGK is number 1. But the only downside to Bun being with Pimp, people didn't realize it, so a lot of people still don't realize Bun was one of the most gifted lyricists ever. Like, go after this is over, or if you're watching on YouTube, pull up another side tube, a side channel, and play it right now. Skip halfway through the song after Pimp starts the song. Tired of living bad. Tired of hearing Grandma tell me when you're gonna go to church.
Yeah, he was cooking on that song.
All right, that was Pimp's part where it starts. Halfway through that song, Bun comes on and he speaks the realest stuff you've ever heard in a rap song. And he did this in the mid-90s, and you hear it now, and it's just straight gospel. You got one life. Oh man, I don't even want to spoil it for you.
No, that's real. And so in Bun too, even on Big Pimpin', like Bun was like, everybody was kind of like party rapping. Bun was kind of like hitting you with some, with some stuff with a party kind of song.
The wordplay, Biggie's wordplay is the greatest of all time. Nobody has wordplay like Biggie. When Biggie would rap, you could see a movie in front of you. I'm with my man 2Tex. They call him 2Tex because when he starts to blast, he's like, yo, who's next? I'm on the board. Oh man, like go listen to that one. I mean, just the wordplay. The first time I heard it, I had to rewind the tape about 5-6 times. And it's just what's the name of that track, Cliff? Where he's on there, he's talking about 2Tex. I always forget the name of that track, but it's the best Biggie track, and it's not a mainstream one. It's not all these ones that everybody loved and hyped, but you just listen to the wordplay and you see a whole movie. For a correlation for those people out there in California, where you're at now in LA, with all those. You remember one of my favorite movies as a kid, Menace to Society.
Yeah.
All right. Do you remember the soundtrack? MC8, who was in the movie, also did the soundtrack. MC8's song on that soundtrack, I didn't like anything else MC8 did except his song to the soundtrack, Menace to Society. He tells you the whole Menace to Society movie front to back with MC8's rapping that in the early 90s. Go back and listen to it. He killed the track.
Go back and listen.
That's what Biggie does on every single track in the 90s. In the 90s. And we're in 2100 and we got like these little dudes like Drake out here like doing pop. And you got guys in the 90s like wordplay. We got 26 consonant and vowels, and the way they will flip those 26 letters to tell a story is just genius. It's not about the genre, it's about the genius.
I was listening to Notorious Thugs the other day, man, and Bone Thugs Harmony was my favorite group. It's probably my favorite. Yeah, straight up, we know Angel Dust, label us Notorious. These Smalls destroyed their verses, and they cooked.
Yeah.
Just the way he would just kind of like have the gravity of what was going on with him, Tupac, so-called beef with who female stars up to. Like he had the ability just to walk you through that.
Yes.
The song about some bullshit is all that big. Yeah. Like the chorus is nothing. But he still laid out what he about his manifesto.
You remember the one he had with Method Man? Him and Method Man did a song back in the mid-90s called The What? And him and Method Man went back and forth. It's not one of the most lyrical, but it's just, I just love Method Man back then. I remember Meth in that song talking about spit on your grave. Then I grabbed my Charles Dickens, stop, look, and listen. I mean, they just lit it up. And that was around the time right after that Meth got with Redman and they did the Rottweiler and then dropped those couple albums. So
yes, I wasn't big on Meth and Red, but I do know that they're hits. I do respect Wu-Tang though. That's where it's at.
Oh, you know what me and my wife's song was for a wedding. This is going to trip your listeners out. You know, most people got like some Johnny Gill, some stuff like that. Put on your red dress. Fuck all that bullshit. Nah, Jayson and his wife, when we've been married 17 years, this is the key to success. You got to find something real. Best mix of an R&B rap song ever was our song for a wedding. You
okay, Mary J.
To give and then Meth came in. I gotta, what do you say? Yeah. I gotta love Jones for your body and your skin tones. 5 minutes alone, I'm already on the bone. Plus, I love the fact you got a mind of your own. No need to shop around. You got that good to get home. Oh man, he just starts ripping the whole thing, and then he says the realest stuff in there. And that's where the wedding part came into. Like it reminded me of my wife. And you know, that song came back out in like 94, 95 when Mary J and Meth dropped that. But when it came out though, I always looked for that woman I would never date. Like I met my wife in 98, the first blind date I ever went on, but we didn't start dating until 03 because I just wouldn't date people. If I did, it'd just be for a minute and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you was just one hit quitter. You know, you was just young. Yeah, you was just young. You're not trying to you're like, hey, I got friends to hang out with. I'm trying to hang out with you. And so
you know why
we might have stopped this video an hour ago. Let's just cut this last 40 minutes. But
hey, don't get yourself in trouble, man.
Right. But no, it just but the reason I came back to my wife, and I always circle back when I said, man, when I ever get ready to settle down for real, I'm gonna circle back to my wife, who's my wife now, Jeanette. And it just reminds me of that song. You know, you remember Meth on that back oh God, now I'm gonna forget the lyric. You would rub me on my back and say, baby, is be okay. Now that's real to a brother like me, baby. Never ever give my away and keep it tight until we can walk these dogs so we can live in a fat ass crib with thousands of kids. Word life. You don't need a ring to be my wife. Just live there for me. I'm gonna be there. Oh, God, I'm starting to fall off now. But you remember it was just like real stuff. He's talking about you don't need a ring to be like I've never had a ring. We've been married 17 years, and it's not about the symbolization in this world. It's about like the realness of it all. And just in this world. Just in this world.
NBA logo.
There it is. Way
to prove it twice.
Brought it right back.
It's about the realness, not the symbolism.
That's it. There you go. Fair enough. You brought it back full circle. But that's what it is. But we're living in a world now where a lot of time I just keep my mouth shut, only put something on social media when I need to work or just feeling like it. And you don't do it for the reactions because you realize now that this world we're living in right now, 2021, they respect the fake so much more than the real. So if you're just a real dude, just shut the hell up and do your hustle because they ain't respecting it anyway. Just shut up, do your hustle, and don't worry about what they do. Do you.
And here's the thing, too. Real is just, I mean, it's foreign because it feels weird when someone is genuine. Yeah. And I'm very unapologetic. And some of my YouTube friends have kind of learned how I am. And they roll with it or they don't. You know what I'm saying? And so, but some people, well, I compare it more closely to work. They know me. Like I'm Cliff. I'm the top performer. I move into LA. They know if you want to learn how to do this shit, talk to me because I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna tell you fluff. If you want to be successful doing this, I'm gonna tell you in my way. I'm gonna cuss a lot, but when customers in, obviously I will not. I can code switch like a mug. So, but my whole point is, some people don't like my approach, but I kind of got the clout where it doesn't matter if you don't like how I am.
Most people, before I even open my mouth, have hated me my entire life. I mean, I got people in my family that just didn't like the way. They just don't understand you. If you don't act the way they think you're supposed to act, then they don't like you. They want you to be the way. I've been me since the day I was. You keep saying something. I almost did a podcast earlier this year. I was going to name it Unapologetically Me. And so we're on parallel right there because you just can't care what anybody else thinks because, number one, why would you? You know what I mean? Like their opinion is so fake at this point now. Their followers are just following what they think their opinion should be. There's so few. Again, probably 1 out of 10, you have somebody out there that's just real and they see it. They see to the core of what's real and what's fake and what people do for show and what they do for realness. Like I tell people now that, you know what I mean? Like I tell dudes all the time, I got people I haven't talked to in a while and I make them feel awkward as hell, Cliff. I call them up and I'm just like, I don't believe in taking words to the grave. So I'm like, hey, dude, I just want to tell you, I ain't talked to you in a couple years, man. You just a good dude. You've done a lot of really good stuff in your life, man. I just want to tell you I love you. And like, oh, all right, Jason. I think my other line's beeping. You know what I mean? I make them feel awkward, but like if I'm gone tomorrow, my words are already there. Like you know how I felt. You don't have to worry about it. And I'm so used to people not liking me that at 42, it's just gotten to the point in the last 2 years where I just got to the point where I'm unapologetically me. Hey, this is me. Love it or hate it. You know, I mean, I'm still going to be me, whether I'm in front of a mic, behind a mic, in these streets. I'm going to still be me. I was the same person before I ever got on radio. I was the same person before I left South Carolina. I've been me to my core since the day I was born, and people start apologizing because other people and people surrounding them, even family, don't like them being them. They rather them be a copy of the people they're surrounded and they think you're supposed to act like, instead of the authenticity that's really you.
Agree, because most people are programmed to be fake because most people are not. They don't have the gumption to stand on their square. Like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And you can take that shit or leave it. And I do want to give Patrick Okafor a lot of credit because he in real life is that kind of guy. Nice. And let me put it towards how I've changed. I said in the last about 3 years, I'm a lot more, stoic with my thoughts and what I say. And it's tough, me running Hoop Jargon, which is a big group, over 4K members, because I used to be a little more just to play towards the good for the group, the good for the whole. And now it's just like, no, I'm going to lay out my unapologetic, unabashing opinion, and I don't give a shit if you don't like it. Right. And I think that most people like us, we can navigate in that space where some people may want to distance themselves from you. And I get that. You want to play the corporate game, that's you. And I'm sure.
But who do you need? Who do you need, though? Yeah, like if people distance themselves from you. Point. Yeah.
I didn't need, when I learned that I can be how I am, make sure I handle business, and I can still be successful and make good money, then why the hell do I need to be coddling to your preference when me for me is first? Sorry.
If you're happy, you're happy, man. Don't live for anybody else. Or put it in the simplest form to go back to something we started earlier on the show talking about. I think it was Kings of Comedies when Bernie said this. People don't like you for who they are. If people don't like you for who you are, fuck them. Fuck them. You know what I mean? That's all it was. I mean, that's all it was. That was Bernie Mac. And I mean, Bernie did not ever placate to what he thought he should be for people or what would give him light. And to go back to Zero again, sorry for those who's tired of the Zero references, Zero never sold out. He's done an album almost every year for 20 years, and he never sold out. He even talks about it like, I could have went out there and made that pop single. I could have went and did this little booty dancing video or whatever, it sells tracks and gets likes on YouTube's or gets shares and gets attention. But he's like, I'm going to keep putting out there what I put out there. And there's some people, I think what we're going to see with a lot of people that's just real, like Zero and yourself and other people that, to your point, to use the word you use, stoic, and you just choose your words more carefully. You stick to yourself. Hey, this is what I think. I'm just leaving it out there. You don't have to like it. You don't have to hate it. I just want to share what I think. This is my page. This is my platform. This is what I think. If I feed you something, I don't need to know if it tastes good. It's still a line from Snap. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm feeding you. This is it. And so many times people, especially this era, they focus so much on the wrapping paper, they overlook the gift. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Like they'll focus so much. Let's say you give somebody, or let's take somebody like me, because a lot of people don't like the way I talk, the way I act, the way I look. And so they will focus on that. And I can give them something that's gospel that's going to happen 3 to 6 months that no one else is talking about in the sports industry, but they can't accept it because they don't like the way it's being delivered to them. My packaging, the way I look, the way I talk, the way I act. That's on them. You have people in this world from the beginning of time till now. Let's go back to Zero, for example. He's got an album for every 20 years. And because he didn't sell out, he didn't go mainstream and popularize. They don't know him. But Zero's going to be one of those guys. Like, I don't know if Einstein was like this or not, but there's some people during their time, people poke at and point at and say, look at that guy. He's a weird one. Look at that. And then when they're gone, For the rest of the time, they're celebrated as a genius. Absolutely. That's going to be zero. That's going to be these other people. March to the beat of your own drum. Just keep on going. And there's still real people out there. They're few and far between, but you just keep putting the right stuff out there. You keep doing the work, and the right people will recognize it and bring it back to Hoop Jargon and all the other people who's looking to get in this industry or stream on YouTube, do their own podcast, whatever. The only advice I can give you, there's nothing special about me. I'm a high school graduate from South Carolina at a time. They were 48th in education out of 50 states. Our state slogan was "Thank God for Mississippi and Alabama" and the educational department. So I got picked on the whole time because I had a lazy tongue. I had to go to speech therapist like all through elementary school, and then after that, the way I talked, and because I have to take my time and pronunciate every syllable for it to sound right. I'm not going to do that. So I talk, my language comes out different, and they've hated me for it since I was a kid. It weighed on me as a kid. It weighed on me as an adult. It wasn't until about a couple of years ago at 40, I'm just like, man, there's nothing wrong with me. I know who I am. I know I'm a good dude. I look out for other people else. I'm going to just keep saying what I think. And then, maybe they love me when I'm gone.
There you go. Well, and I got a quick thing to throw. Edgar Allan Poe, man. He actually was not popular. He died broke.
Really? I did not know that.
Died broke. So he wasn't revered until way after his death, 100 years after his death. And everybody speaks to him like he is a standard for poetry. So that's one way your art can be respected after you're dead. Secondly, now did you see the comment, the brother P. Rose, man? He's very astute 21-year-old subscriber I have, man. I had him on the show. We talked about Kaepernick and Tim Tebow, man. He's asking you, so how do you get into the sports media radio game, et cetera? So I guess he's asking for some advice on that. You kind of touched on that a little bit with your last time.
I'll go back. I'll just make it quick. I don't want to get too, I know I get long-winded a lot, but so I'll just touch on it real quick here. As far as what I said earlier in the show is that younger guys, your generation, they're in college. A lot of times they would intern like at ESPN 97.5, and you can still try to go this route. David Gal and those at ESPN 97.5, they bring on a lot of interns. A lot of their former interns, eventually, it might take a couple of years, have gotten roles and moved up, and some are even producers and on-air talent. So if you're in college and you want to go the traditional route, that's the way you would probably have to go in the best route for you. But what a lot of young people are going, men and women that are wanting to get in this industry from all types of background, they're not going that traditional method because, and it's probably better for you. Go start your own podcast. Listen back to yourself. That's the number one advice I can give you, no matter what you do. When I started this back in 2009, I didn't get trained for this. I listened to other people in Houston. I took what I liked. I learned how to go to commercials, how to do the 1 chair, how to do the 2 chair, the 3 chair, and I'm just self-taught on everything. But my way to get in the industry is not the way I would do it. I took a class in 2009. A guy who was in that class moved up in the radio industry. I called into his show back in 2010. His name was the Mighty Gwynn, Dylan Gwynn, and he remembered me from the class, and he thought so highly of my evaluations in that class on draft prospects, he asked me to come on for a segment the next week. Then he liked that so much, he asked me to come on once a week. And then over the years, I eventually started being his co-host for free at his at the time of his when he left at 790 and he went over to ESPN 975, and the people at 790 back then liked me enough at the time that they just moved me into my own night show. So it's probably the most untraditional path to it. I wouldn't follow my path. For yourself, I would say do a podcast, get with people you respect, and find your friends and family members that love you enough to tell you the truth when they listen. Because most people will tell you, oh, you sound good. That sounds great. No one's going to be a bigger critic to you on camera or on audio than yourself. You're going to hate the way you sound. You're not going to think you're going to be a success. All the negative stuff's going to come. Keep pursuing. Persistence beats resistance. That's the only key to success in my life, is I just keep going. Everybody tells me no, and I just do it.
Perfect information. And also, man, before we peace out, I do want you to let me know once it's okay to announce what you're going to do with the fantasy game.
Okay.
The boy, we need some help, man. I don't be knowing, man.
Yeah, I just knocked out my quarterback rankings last night. We're going to launch the site in June. It's a friend I've known since like 2010. I'm pretty excited about it. We're going to have some different things in the radio industry we'll be doing as well, too. But he asked me, like, let's wait. We're going to launch. We're going to go live in July, but we're going to launch in June. So I've already started where I knocked out my quarterback fantasy rankings last night, and my tight end rankings the last couple of days. So working through my rankings now to get ready for the season, because next month I got to switch from the fantasy football rankings over to the NBA draft, especially with all the attention Houston may have. What are we up to now? 16 picks in the first round for the Rockets? I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun draft. I don't think I can remember a time in my life in the 10 plus years I've done this where you could see a team in the city that you watch that when you study could take 3 first-round picks possibly. Now, there's a lot of stuff that has to fall the right way, but that makes doing the work a lot more fun when you can see like, hey, I'm doing all this research and then they come to the city, then it's cutting off work you have to do 2 to 3 years in advance.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to it, man. I gotta have you back on, man. Like, again, we're kindred spirits, man.
Yeah, I love it. This is the easiest flow. Any podcast show I've ever had, any show I do, any podcast, such an easy flow, man. I can be myself, just come on and talk, and I don't feel like there's that judgment back from the other side of the camera. So it's a cool atmosphere. Love what y'all do. I'm not heavy on social media, but I've been checking on Hoop Jargon from time to time. Was at the top of the feed when I go in there for a second for work. And I got to tell you, you got some people in there, some men and women. There was a lady who impressed the hell out of me probably about 2 years ago. You were going back and forth talking ball with her. And that's the last thing I want to leave y'all with. When I was a kid, I don't even think I was double digits yet. I might have been 9 years old. It might have been in Sports Illustrated somewhere. I read an article, and it said by the year 2020 or something, or 2030, somewhere in the future, not too distant future, at that point, it's about 30, 40 years, they said women's bodies and athletes are going to start closing that gap on men. And I think we're starting to see that now. I think the WNBA is going to start building up. We're starting to see more men supporting the WNBA and everything else. We're going to start seeing sports going in a different direction. I'm telling you, these women athletes have made a leap in the last 5 years beyond anything I've ever seen from men, women, anything. These women the mannerisms are closer to men's mannerisms and fighting than I've ever seen before. And I don't mean that as a slight to women like, hey, you're not fighting like a girl no more. I'm just meaning like, let's take, for example, best female MMA fighter ever. Who is it? She's still fighting right now.
Was it Cyborg?
No, she whooped Cyborg.
Oh,
my girl. Oh God, how am I forgetting her name? The Lioness. I can't believe I forget her name. Anyway, I met her at the Super Bowl back in 2017, got the interview and everything. When she fights, she's the first woman fighter I've ever seen in my life that I said, you can put her up against another trained male fighter of about similar stature, and I think she could actually win. I would have never said that at any point in my life before the last couple of years. And we're starting to see more women become more athletic, and I think we're going to see that gap close. We're going to see that gap close relatively quick between men and women, and talk about things we've never considered. And when I started thinking about that, though, I'd like to take credit for that. But as an article, and I don't know if it's Sports Illustrated or who, I read back when I was like 9, 10 years old, and credit to whoever, read the tea leaves to see that happening. Because I've been seeing it unfold in front of us in our lives, and we're seeing it right now. I'd pay attention to that. Go back and look at women fighters 5, 10 years ago and compare them to now. None of those women 5 years ago could touch these women now.
I can see the sport evolving. Me being, I guess, a lifetime athlete, I think we've got a long way to go. We gonna talk about them being in football, being NBA level.
Did you ever play? I played against Gillette Law, and you remember her from the Globetrotters?
What was her name?
I think it was Gillette Law. She was on the Globetrotters. She was from Florence, South Carolina, my hometown. I went to the Y one day when I was like 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere like that. She was up there. Men were playing with her and all this. And to that point, I never thought women would be able to get on the court and go toe to toe with some of the best women. I was at a pretty good level at that time at 14, 15 years old. And she just completely tore up and owned the court. And I realize she's not playing against professional NBA athletes at that time, but back then in the 80s or excuse me, the 90s, early 90s, to see what she was able to do on the court and see how it's gone, I definitely think we're going to see that gap close drastically over the next couple of years.
Well, I'll leave it off with 2 little small tidbits. One, let's see, TB says, with transsexual dominating women in sports, how they're closing the gap. What's your response to that?
transsexuals are dominating women's sports. How are the women closing the gap? Well, I mean, I think you went to a specific dynamic of the conversation talking about transsexuals. I'm not talking about specifically transsexuals. I'm talking about just women, biologically born women. I think they're closing the gap. I mean, the women I mentioned are not transsexuals. These are women that are dominant and physical, and their build are changing more like back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, women, even the professional bodybuilders, they had more of a feminine cut to it. Now it's a masculine cut. Their volume, they're strong, they're built, they're punched, they've got heavy hands. The game has changed, and it's not transsexuals. I don't know where the transsexuals comment came into, and with us being this late into the show, I'm probably not going to go into
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'll say quick. Yeah. Well, so I would say knowing Cynthia Cooper, one of the most, probably the female Jordan you probably could still regard her as. I know that
Cheryl Swoops.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they ain't take no shit. And so I've seen Coop give guys business, but I've also seen Jones give Coop some formidable resistance too. So to that, I say we'll see.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be that much of a bridge, but I do see your point of women being a lot better than they were 5 years ago, and I really do see that. I just think guys are so, because I mean, even guys, the kind of dunks you can do now in basketball, like I had hops. I can put my arm in the rim. Like the stuff I see them do now, I'm just like, holy, like how do you wrap your mind around doing that shit? So like
even as a kid, you couldn't even think that in the future people would be able to do the dunks.
Hell no. I thought all the dunks were done. Like in about 2010, I thought like there's nothing else you can do no more. All them shits are now they jumping over mascots, grabbing the ball, and like Joes can do that now. But to your point, yeah. So like I said, I don't want to start a tangent since we're so far in the show. But next time, I'm gonna let the brothers open. I might open the call live, man. I want them to challenge your theory about female evolution in sports, man. I think the brothers want to give you a little pushback on that.
I'm always welcome for the conversation. Again, as long as you can say whatever you want to with me. Like I think we get offended too much by people just by putting too much words on it. If someone's not trying to disrespect me, I don't get disrespected. So you can have it. This is just sports. We're just talking sports. We're just talking life. There's no, there's nothing here to get offended by. So if I say something they disagree with, I love debate. And I say all the time, social media has killed the art of debate to where it just turns into name calling, this and that. Yeah, but the debate's fun. I mean, you've said some things in this conversation over the last 2 hours that make me think, all right, well, I can see how he gets there. And maybe I need to walk this back a little bit, go a different way. That's how conversation should be had. You're not always right. Your feet's not always in the concrete. Share your point of view, but be humble enough to realize you could be making mistakes in your words.
Absolutely. And so we'll leave it there. So yeah, the guys definitely want to use some pushback. So we'll do it next time. But man,
it's fine. It's all good. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Cliff. Thanks for all Hoops Jargon for tuning in. And anytime you have me back, I had a blast.
Perfect. All right, guys. Signing out. Subscribe to the channel. Jayson Braddock. Ladies and gentlemen, peace.